All right, looks like we're live on YouTube. If you're watching this after the live, I'd go ahead and skip forward like 5-10 minutes. I'm going to give folks some time to get in here. In the meanwhile, I'm going to play a new song given to us by Dan the Man. And it's about the old dowry crusade that we've been on. So let's go ahead and give play to that. Hopefully we can get some folks in here. Might be a slow night.
Yo, Shah steps in, sword sharper than clouds. Dowry in his grip, breaking old world brows. Chains of gold ain't the way hearts tie. Shah fights the tradition, makes the system cry. Shah on a mission, slicing through the haze. Dowry like a weapon, setting love ablaze. Battles in the courts, in the streets, in the sky. Shah fights for freedom till the old days die. Families auction hearts, turning love to sales. Shah wage a war, pulling justice from scales. Rolls up his sleeves, fights greed with a glare. Dowry to destroy, but love to repair. Stacks of cash ain't bonds for life. Shah sees the pain, cuts through with strife. Dowry the tool, but the message breaks bricks. Marriage ain't a hustle, love ain't tricks. Shah on a mission, slicing through the haze. Dowry like a weapon, setting love ablaze. Battles in the courts, in the streets, in the sky. Shah fights for freedom till the old days die. He ain't no saint, just a rebel with heat. Shah dismantling schemes in the concrete. He leaves tradition gasping, clutching its chest. The dowry's flipped now, it's fight in the rest. Dismantling schemes in the concrete. He leaves tradition gasping, clutching his chest. The dowry's flipped now, it's fight in the rest. Yo.
Loving the new intro. Man, shout out for being here, Mr. Pitt. Oh, sorry, I missed Don DeMarco's also. Welcome in, man. Shout out to you guys. Might be a slow night tonight. Might just be us, but that's okay. I wish I was rapping, man. Dan the Man made that for me. It's 2 minutes long. You know what? Play it one more time. 2 minutes, 28 seconds. Dan the Man felt inspired to make a rap version. Bring back the mother effing dowry. It's the beginning of a new rap career. Man, he gave me two versions, and the beat on this one was just too good, honestly. Shah is about to drop the hottest mixtape of 2025. I'll give it a couple more minutes, and if it's just us guys, we'll get started regardless. This will be the last day that you guys see me eating on stream, at least a full-on dinner. Today's the last day of Ramadan, so that's pretty cool. Sounds like Nas a little. Yeah, bro, it's crazy what AI freaking music can do. Like, this is the second time someone's made a song on AI for me, and it's actually got stuck in my head. Like, throughout the week, I have it in my brain, like I'm singing it, you know? So that in itself is praise enough to the music, at least in my opinion. Yo, Nas is tight, man. I mean, it's been a long time since I listened to him, but I used to love listening to Nas. I like this part right here. I'm kind of curious who everyone's favorite rappers are. I mean, like, I used to listen to like God. I mean, I listened to all the classics, you know. Then there was E40. He's like my favorite Bay Area rapper. But I used to like guys like Lupe Fiasco, A Tribe Called Quest. Oh man, there was like a bunch of like sort of niche rappers that I used to like. Takes me back a long way. Yo, Raymond, man, welcome in, brother. Great to see you. I'm looking forward to our next stream. Next time Raymond and I do a stream, we're going to be talking about fringe level topics. You know, like what's beneath the pyramids, UAPs, consciousness, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's gonna be fun for me because I'd like to do some content that's not really so manosphere related. I can't talk about the same thing for too long without going nuts. One thing I wanted to show off to you guys is it here? I don't think I got it pulled up. My buddy Nasuji, he's a guy I've been gaming with since like 2018 in Canada, back when I used to do Twitch. Oh crap, I don't even know what I'm listening to right now. That's kind of tight too. Quality over quantity. But yeah, it's my buddy Nasuji's channel, man. If you guys can show it some love. And he made a gaming video. This video is so tight, man. Like the editing's hella crazy.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I've been gone for a long time.
It also features me wearing glasses because I don't know why. I was just like, oh, are we recording? There's me wearing some glasses, bro. Like nerd level glasses, you know what I'm saying? So, my bad, Raymond. I'm going to read your thing. I just wanted to show this off. So, this is me doing some content that isn't manosphere. And, I can't do manosphere content all the time. I'll lose my damn mind. But, yeah, so please check that out.
Oh, fuck! Run! This way, fucking run.
Anyways, yeah, we're gonna be reacting to this. Let me just finish up with chats real quick, and then we'll get in there. I was at Raymond's chat. Raymond says toxic masculinity is an adolescent debate. Dude, shout out to you for that, man. There's a lot of adolescent type stuff in this space that seems to kind of come up, almost like middle school level type stuff. But I know what you mean. It's like I think we're all kind of over that one now. Mr. Pitt says, did Dan the Man use Suno? He did. I'm pretty sure he did. Because that's the website it's on. Suno. I wonder if like some Indian guy made this. I don't know. I say that because Suno kind of means like listen and in Urdu and Hindi. But I don't know. Who knows why they named it that. Oh, it's Suno. That explains it. Their AI learned from label material. Lawsuit in progress. Oh, well, that's good to know. I mean, it is really good, so it must have taken from a lot of folks. Nas on Play Me. Oh yeah, from 2003. Korn's Take a Look in the Mirror is great. To my everlasting shame, I don't know enough about Korn, but I'll have to check them out. I remember people like they used to have Korn written on their backpacks and stuff. Man, I don't know what it is, man. I've just been thinking a lot about how different the world is now. So I run a scholarship at my old high school, and we raise money for that every year. And then, seniors in high school apply to it, and they have to write an essay, and we got essay questions for them. Then they have to submit like their transcripts and community service hours and recommendation letters from a community person or one of their teachers or whatever, and tell us what college they're going to. But I've been doing that for about 10 years now. 11. Is this? Oh, it's the 11th year we've been doing that. Me and two other of alumni buddies, and we raised some significant money. Like we got a pretty good bank of money from donations that we got from different places. But every year when I do this thing, the school administration sends me their essays. So I read like essays from these high school applicants that are going to college, and I've always valued it because it puts me in this frame of mind of like, a high school person's mind. And some of these kids are really smart. They write way better than I could have at that age. And, but I don't know why. I was just thinking about how different the world is, like especially with technology and social media. And one of these essays, a kid was talking about how prevalent cheating is, and how everybody, they use these like Google tablets or whatever, and there's these different apps that the kids use. One of them was called, I think it was called like Mathway or something like that. I got to go look at it again. But there's these apps where kids can type in their exact equations, and the app will do the math problem and show all the work, so they can just copy it down from there. And I looked it up. I was like, oh my God, that's interesting. There's an app for that. You know what I mean? But beyond that, I was thinking about like my old college campus and high school campus, and how I feel like kids growing up in the next generation aren't really going to understand what it's like to like, I don't know, maybe be in a school full of people. Like, you know, with office people remote working, who knows? What if in like another 10 years you have a bunch of high schools that's all remote high schools? You know what I mean? And there's uh people are more isolated. Or I'm just thinking about like buildings and building planning, and it's like libraries. You know, I drove past the Sacramento library the other day, and I used to love being in the library. Like, I love the Berkeley campus library. It's a beautiful library. Davis had a nice library. And it's like, you don't need libraries anymore when you can have you can have a ton of books scanned onto some server or website. And I just feel like there's a loss of this kind of, I don't know, there's just something, I can't put my finger on it, but it's like, I feel like kids are going to be missing out in the future. You know what I mean? It's like all these buildings and the way we do architecture with function and purpose and certain things we got to do, like we don't need them the same way anymore. And I feel like it's going to look less cool because we're all in our little caves on our computers. You know what I mean? Don DeMarco says E40 is a legend. Tupac is number one though. Yeah, I mean, I got such a soft spot for E40. I love E40's music. Gouda and Cheddar, Magazine Street. I got a buddy who does like a hilarious impersonation of E40. Run the Jewels. I was going to play the jazz song. That's all right. I like Drake. If you like niche rappers, you should check out Ollie Joseph. I'll have to check him out. Yeah, even back then, like I used to like rappers that were just super, I don't know, I liked some of the mainstream guys, but I liked it like because when YouTube was new, especially for me, like would be there looking for different kinds of music and stuff. Yo, Klaus, shout out to you, man. Welcome in, bro. Glad to see you here. Male Space, shout out to you as well, bro. Y'all just lift today? We just all been out here. Hey, listen, I haven't lifted, but I did put on my rucking vest and I put on my wrist weight. So I went on a big walk today, about a mile of me with like 25 pounds extra weight. And so I was hyped about that. The weather was nice. Coffee Enjoyer. Shout out to Coffee Enjoyer. Also, we're missing Coke addiction. We need Coffee Enjoyer and Coke addiction in here at the same time. Oh man, I'm so behind on the chat. Coffee Enjoyer says, congrats. Oh, he missed the 13K stream. Congrats though. Yeah, shout out to Raymond Thoughts and Mine. He just passed the 13,000 subscriber mark. You're a freaking like maverick in the YouTube space. Like Raymond just came out of nowhere and has like 13,000 subs, but that's because he puts in the work. This guy has, every morning I wake up, I turn on my TV just before I get out of bed and I see Raymond Thoughts and Mine's video for the day. So, I mean, you can't beat that. You know what I mean? Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Man, I'm doing fantastic. It's the last day of Ramadan here today. Tomorrow we have a holiday, so I'll be spending time with family. And I'll be eating real well, which I'm super happy about. And I don't know, it's springtime, man. Things are cool. I'm feeling real cool, motivated, happy. So, God willing, just more stuff coming down the line. Ice Cube and Korn is good too. Korn is white trash metal. LOL, no worries. They're not rap. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're not rap, but I'll still have to check them out. They were probably using Wolfram Alpha. You'll never have a calculator in your pocket. Friends, what are your opinions on Pearl? I like Pearl, and I mean, obviously I'm biased. She was kind to me and gave me a shot, especially with that first interview for child support. But beyond that, I used to watch her stuff prior, and she was kind of in there on the sort of fresh and fit, whatever podcast style stuff. And she saw a video that I did about whatever podcast and fresh and fit beefing. And I mentioned Pearl in passing, and I got something wrong about her, but she left a comment correcting it. And I was talking more about the average man and how there's too much of a focus on this high value stuff. And, Pearl agreed with me, and she linked a tweet where she criticized one of Andrew Tate's tweets for, dismissing the average man, basically. And when it comes to Pearl, I really feel like Pearl is a person who I've watched go through a huge redemption arc, and she recently got remonetized, and I knew she was going to get remonetized for a while. I was like, I know that's happening. But I've watched her, like, I think she comes at it genuinely, and I've watched her question tradcons and question things, and so I'm, when it comes to Pearl, I'm very happily a supporter of her channel, and I enjoy her content a lot. So, over here we support Pearl. Don DeMarco says, I do something similar, Shah. Some of these kids are using AI to write their scholarship essays, sort of a detractor. It's funny, because I was reading these scholarship essays for this scholarship that I do for my old high school, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, if this better not be Chat GPT. But I feel like I've read enough stuff and written enough stuff and used Chat GPT enough to be able to know, okay, that's Chat GPT or it isn't. And the thing is like some of these kids' GPAs are like 4.3 something, or it's like the valedictorian out of 607 kids in the senior high school class. So I'll look at their grades and I'll look at stuff and I'll be like, okay, this is probably legit. And, it takes a lot to write a good essay, I think. But yeah, I mean, there has been instances of cheating, even on this scholarship and stuff. So either way, it's a good thing. These kids get some money for college. We know it's tough, and it's something I've felt good about doing over the years. I feel like with all the stuff I do throughout the year, the least I can do is a little bit of charity to give back. Coffee Enjoyer says, I think it lacks intentionality, and there is something to be said about physically holding something instead of doing it on a screen. I would say, yeah, man, I know what you mean. And it's like, I think the reason I've been thinking about that, it's like, I've been on this retro kick lately. Let me show you my CRT TV right here. Look at this beauty. Look at this absolute beauty right here. Look at this freaking beauty, man. I've been coming home every night and I've been playing Super Nintendo games on this. My buddy gave me his old Wii, which has a component connection. And I got some stuff on there. And I also got a bunch of old DVDs. And it's just kind of taking me down memory lane, So I've been kind of just thinking about all this stuff and then reading these, soon-to-be college student essays. Just kind of shows me how much things changed because they'll talk about stuff. And it's like, man, I don't know. The world is different, And we watched that video last week about the fertility crisis and about how cell phones and globalization's affected things, even in countries like the Middle East and Mexico and places, India. So, fascinating stuff. I mean, we're going into new times. I think it lacks intentionality, and there's something to be said about physically holding something instead of doing it on screen, I would say. Well, you know what? One of the biggest differences, too, and like, with the retro TV, one of my buddies was talking to me about this, is that, like, if you're using a smart TV or a cell phone or an iPad or something to read a book, which I do all of those, I mean, not on a smart TV, but I mean, like, if you're just on a smart TV, it's too easy to get distracted. There's so many choices. The smart TV's constantly trying to sell you things, like you're bombarded with ads and things like that. But when it comes to like reading a book, like this book on chivalry here by Peter Wright and co-authored by Paul Elam, I don't know if I can get it to focus. Dang it. Let's see on this one. It's easier to not get your attention broken, basically. But and same thing with like watching a full movie. Like we have such a hard time watching or reading long form things. I do, and I catch myself with that. So we've all been kind of brain rotted. So it's like using old technology is kind of nice because if you're sitting there, there's a little bit more of an activation energy to get up off my butt and change a DVD. You know what I mean? So I got to sit there and be like, okay, this is the one I want to watch. You know what I'm saying? But of course I got my cell phone like right here. So that distracts me. Marriage causes divorce. Shout out to you, man. I know we got to get this show started, but I'm just having a blast talking to you guys. Get the likes up. Rest in peace, UK. Oh, God. I don't have Netflix anymore. I mean, I haven't had Netflix for years. And the last time I had Netflix, it wasn't me who had it, but some woman I was dating. So sometimes we'd watch it at her place. But, I wanted to watch that before the stream, but I was like, I don't need to, I'm not going to watch it because I don't feel like getting Netflix again. But I've seen some clips. Raymond, congratulations. Shout out to Raymond. Pearl got remonetized. Yeah, and shout out to her. Shout out to Pearl again. Why do you think she got remonetized? Well, I don't know, but I mean, she did a lot of things. You know, she took down a lot of content that she had previously. And, you know, I think probably some of it was just working with her YouTube rep. And her show, I like her show. I mean, I think she can be like this generation's View or something if she wanted to, like a show like that. But it's very professional. I think it's, you know, I don't think there's any rudeness or grotesqueness. There's been character growth. Like when you look at Pearl, there's definitely been growth. You know what I mean? So I think YouTube recognizes that. I believe in redemption. You know what I'm saying? I think people deserve redemption. Especially if they prove that they've gone through a redemption arc, which I think she has. So, you know, shout out to YouTube for giving her remonetization. I like to see redemption. I like to see forgiveness, and I like to see people, you know, overcome and grow and all that kind of stuff. Raymond says, all I got to say about the females in the manosphere thing is, where are the single ones? They're all with guys already. Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. It kind of makes me think about the female incel. You know, I was surprised to learn that it was actually a woman who came up with the term incel because she was kind of going through it herself. Timmy Kramer says, gotta check in. Yo, shout out to you, Timmy. Thank you for helping men in society. Hey, I appreciate that, man. It's very kind of you. I'm trying to add what little I can to the space, and I've been grateful to get a shout out from some of the other bigger creators, or talk to Paul Elam and talk about marriage transactions and the dowry. I have another recording with Tim Golden and Dr. Stephen Baskerville on Monday morning, and with this other guy who actually is a consultant in Washington for child support. So it's going to be my first time meeting him, which will be interesting because he's probably more of an expert in the child support program than I am. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say. He's probably interested to hear what I have to say, but he's watched some of the stuff. His name's Don. Oh man, I think it was like Benowitz or something. I got to look at his last name again, but he gave some of his papers. So I got to read some of those before Monday, and I got a family holiday tomorrow. I don't know how I'm going to do that. It says 9 a.m. Monday we'll be recording. So that's coming soon. Is that Eden woman taken? I'm not sure who that is. She's like 50 and in a wheelchair. Okay. I have detection software and it gives a likelihood score on the essay using AI. Interesting stuff. Yeah, I've heard of college like entrance people using that to try to determine if people are using that on like college apps or something. Or I think even college professors in general. But I've heard those things don't have they're not that accurate. So I'd hate for a kid to get in trouble when he actually wrote an essay. I got to fix my collar, man. What's going on here? And it's just like this program is just said, oh, it's an AI written essay, but it was wrong. Hey, MCD has entered the chat. Now it's a party. Absolutely. Get the likes up. Yo, Marcus Gray, shout out to you, brother. No such thing as a femcel. Females can get easily. Maybe they are. Yeah, I mean, maybe their version of it is like they can't find a relationship. So that's what makes them feel upset or something. There's probably some women out there that are even having a tough time. I'm sure you guys have had experiences with women that have kind of come off a little desperate. And then it's kind of enlightening because it kind of mirrors back to me like, oh man, is that what I'm like sometimes? You know, like there's been instances in my dating life where I think I've not come off the best, but there's something that kind of pushes you away, you know? I didn't know. Yo, Will, shout out to you, man. I know tomorrow's Eid, but Eid Mubarak to you. Big Shah in the house. Big Shah. All right, well, we listened to, I don't know if you heard the rap song, Will. We'll have to play that again later on, but anyways, let's get to the main event here. Shout out to Coach Greg Adams. I also got some other stuff. I wanted to go over 2 Manosphere Highlights daily videos because I felt like they were pretty good. And this one right here is a woman is a victim of paternity fraud, which I was getting my car washed and I started watching this on my cell phone and I was like, what is he talking about? And it has to do with IVF, and this is a really interesting video. So we're going to take a look at that. Then we got another Manosphere Highlights daily videos. They're both short videos. Guess who's looking stupid now? So we'll check out some of these videos. So we got extras depending on how long this goes. This is 40 minutes. I saw a clip of this And the highlight of this clip is Andrew Wilson, who is he is a guy who's kind of had a meteoric rise over the last year or 2 years. And he is very good at taking down feminists and pretty much anybody he debates. He's a master debater. And he did a great job of pretty much exposing Tommy Lauren here. I don't know how to say her name exactly, but as a, covert undercover feminist. And she had no problem listing off all the things men are supposed to do and the things men biologically want to do or whatever, allegedly. And when he asked her back, what do men get out of it? What are women's duties? She did a really bad job answering that. Now, that's in here somewhere, but I haven't watched the whole 41 minutes. So we're going to watch the whole 41 minutes together. And yeah, so that's going to be good. Mr. Pitt says, women can only be insings, involuntarily single. Yeah, I forgot about that word, insing. MHD videos are awesome. Yeah, they are. It had been a while since I watched them, so it was pretty cool to hear that again. So, all right, yeah, let's go and get into this. As you know, Piers Morgan, sometimes some of his stuff's good. Sometimes it's just kind of like nails on a chalkboard to me. I guess it depends what they're talking about, but here we go. Okay, let's just, oh, okay, yeah, he's making fun of those. Have you guys seen those new videos? And it'll be like of like this super in-shape guy, and they show like their routine, and it'll be him like dipping his face in ice water and then running really fast to the camera and doing all this kind of crazy stuff, or rubbing a banana peel on their face. So basically, he's making fun of this kind of new form of masculinity or whatever you want to call it. Ha ha ha.
And was raised by the British Prime Minister.
Okay. Piers Morgan.
Adolescence on Netflix is currently the biggest show in the world. The drama about a 13-year-old misogynist who kills a teenage girl has been seen by 25 million people so far and was raised by the British Prime Minister in Parliament.
Any of you guys watched Adolescent out there? I'm just curious.
With our children, I've got a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. And it's a very, very good documentary to watch, or drama. This violence carried out by young men, influenced by what they see online, is a real problem. It's abhorrent, and we have to tackle it.
So, that right there kind of sounds like a sort of, it's always the same thing. Like, they'll take the worst piece of the manosphere and they will use it to, do a hit job on the whole place. I mean, and anybody who's in the manosphere prior, especially when it came to like the rage phase or things like that, or when it came to red pill rage, as they'd call it, as opposed to like, blue pill rage, you can say. The manosphere a lot of times helped guys get through that rage phase. I mean, it was called the rage phase for a reason. You know what I mean? But instead, what they're presenting is this opposite things where people find the manosphere and then they become violent. But oftentimes it was the manosphere doing the opposite, in my opinion. Yo, by the way, guys, I just want to show you what Piers Morgan's making fun of. I had to dig this up. All right, this is what he's making fun of. Like, this is like a new trend. Oh shoot! See, here's the daily routine. Oh, it's beautiful. These just came out of nowhere, by the way. So apparently there's a bunch of these on the internet now. It's like a new... All right, do the running thing. All right, here goes. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, you guys get the picture. So that's what he was doing. I don't know what it is. That's just so funny to me. Real quick, just before we get started, Piers got that club music. Honestly, Piers is such a douche. He can be sometimes. He can be purposely very like, it's like, come on. I guess obtuse would be the word. Mr. Pitt said, did you plan a Discord, Twitch, kick-only live stream for your reaction to Vice Columbia Passport? Not yet, man. To my everlasting shame, Mr. Pitt. I know you asked me to do that, so forgive me for not having done that yet. But I need to make that happen. I need to make that happen. Klaus says, that is not a documentary. They started race swapping right off the bat. Ah, damn. Are you talking about the Adolescence? I didn't watch it. Coffee Enjoyer says shoes, no socks is just off-putting. That is very weird to me. Yeah, I'm a socks and shoes person. He spent most of his day getting ready. I know. You know, to be honest, what that looks like to me is like another version of the trad wife stuff. You remember how like you had this like very clean, prim and proper looking trad wife videos that were getting popular? And it's designed to make a bunch of women feel probably insecure, but it's like very unrealistic. It's like, let's make homemade Oreos when it's like, you know, who has that much time? And it seems to be it is the byproduct of a lot of money, you know? That seems to be like a guy version of that trad wives sort of TikTok trend or whatever. Don says, I started paying attention to this too about a year ago when I would hear Christians talking about men's duties. If I don't hear them also mention what duties women have, it's a gynocentric take. Yeah, and I mean, same thing with this clip he just played from the UK parliament or whatever, and it's like, oh my God, this is affecting women or it's making women uncomfortable, but no talk about why the manosphere exists in the first place and why there's this quote-unquote boy crisis going on and why they're gravitating to the space. But forget it, you know what I mean?
Fictional story, Prime Minister, not a documentary, but as the Prime Minister referenced, it tells the story of young boys who are radicalised by content online. There are references to the manosphere, the Matrix, incels, and red pills. Andrew Tate gets a name check. And that part of the show is sparked an outpouring of commentary.
You know, of course it's going to be, you know, Andrew Tate. And I mean, you know, he had a meteoric rise and became viral and all that stuff, but he is the perfect person to use, I guess, for a, you know, hit job on the whole space.
About the abject horrors of the internet and the crisis of male role models.
Banged by a girl, you sausage.
You're not getting it.
What am I not getting?
Dad, you're not reading what they're doing. It's a call to action by the manosphere.
A call to action by the manosphere. Oh, man. You know what? But I haven't watched it, so I don't want to shade it too much. I do think there is some aspect of kids being influenced by influencers, you know what I mean, in a way that's negative. So that's definitely a thing. But, you know, my feeling is that they're probably taking this to the next level of crazy. I do remember that clip from like a year or 2 years ago, and it was of Sneeko, and some little kid finds Sneeko on his live stream, and he's like, oh my God, Sneeko. And then he like immediately says some pretty mean things like, you know, destroy all the rainbows, destroy all the transition, you know, folks. And there was this sort of look of like realization on Sneeko's face, like, oh my God, like that's not good. You know what I mean? Like, he realized what kind of influence he was having on these kids, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's some aspect of that. I'll have to yield that. Matrix mentioned, yep, automatically. Take a shot for every time Pierce says Andrew Tate, yeah.
To 20% of men. You must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way.
Oh my God.
It's a call to action by the manosphere. 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men.
80% of women are attracted to 20% of men. You know, okay, yeah, so they're going to throw some of those in there. I saw Rolo did some tweets and he did a stream, and I watched part of it where I think he was not happy about this statement. And he went over the study or whatever it came from, and it's the 80-20 as they're presenting it is not correct. It's actually that women find 80% of men unattractive, and they only find 5% of men actually attractive, and the other 15% are just not unattractive. Or something like that. I'd have to go back and watch what he said too, but there was some clarification there. Coffin Joy says, yeah, I mean, the way they portray this stuff, always annoying. The dialogue is not how anyone would ever actually talk, and it's very obvious. Yeah. I mean, it's very tough for me to watch anything on Netflix, honestly. I don't know what it is. And I mean, that's probably why I'm going down the retro rabbit hole at this point. I prefer to watch older movies. I hate watching a movie and then seeing like some agenda come out of nowhere. Like, I just want a good story, you know, and Netflix, especially Netflix original, is the king of just screwing me over. You know, I do want to go back and watch Squid Games one of these days. I don't even know if that's a Netflix original or if that's just a foreign TV series that, you know, actually made something good. Timmy says, my buddy lit himself on fire the final day of his divorce. Oh my God. If you weren't MGTOW now, I mean, if you weren't MGTOW already, you are MGTOW now. I don't even know. I don't even know what sound effect to use for that. That's very sad. I hope he's still around with minimal burns. Marriage causes divorce says 100, or my bad, let me finish reading what you said. That whole fire thing just put me in another realm. Thank God men are standing up to the injustice. Absolutely. Marriage causes divorce says 150 women girls are deleted in the UK per year, but it's normally husbands or boyfriends doing the crime, not manosphere red pill guys. Yeah, and I would wager that the husbands are these blue pilled guys who they didn't need the manosphere, but then maybe something happened and they just lost their minds, you know what I'm saying? And I say that because it's like, you know, there were stories about things that happened over child support cases with very disgruntled fathers. You know, there's even news stories where some very bad things happened. And a lot of it is one day these people just kind of snap, you know? Rello says 100% of women are attracted to top 5% of guys. Yes. Yeah, 100% of women are attracted to the top 5% of guys. And then I guess for the most part, women say 80% of the guys are unattractive. And 15%, that 15% left over is they're just not unattractive or something. So I don't know. That was interesting.
You must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way.
That part right there is hilarious. You must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way. I guess that's a shout out to some of the pickup artists. That's DHV right there. Demonstrate high value.
Well, The Guardian summed up the general tone of the reporting with a headline that said, from the police to the Prime Minister, how adolescence is making Britain...
The other thing that I wonder, to be completely honest with you, is that it sounds like the movie's around like some kid, you know, stabbing another kid or something like that. But like even way before the manosphere, it's like I remember movies about gang violence and violence happening in schools and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, there might even be less violence in schools now than there ever was before. And that was way before the manosphere. So to be honest, like violence happening in schools, I think has been a thing for a while. Is it because of the manosphere or not? You know what I mean? 5% chats, 15% beta provider cash machines, 80% invisible guys. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Face up to toxic masculinity. But is it really? Can it not just be a successful drama that references popular culture, as so many do? Critics of the show say it's another version of the same man-bashing narrative.
I feel like there was so many pieces of media that came out that were probably expecting Kamala Harris to win. Like this whole Snow White debacle. You guys pay any attention to that? Where they had, you know, whatever the actress was, but the actress was like saying all this kind of like political stuff. And, you know, some people are like, why would they cast her as Snow White? She, you know what I mean? So she's not attractive or whatever. But in the current climate that we're in now, as things change, people are just like less willing to just put up with the media stuff.
It gave rise to the so-called manosphere in the first place. Well, here to debate all this is the host of The Crucible, Andrew Wilson, the radio host, James Barr, the host of Tommy Laren is Fearless on Outkick, Tommy Laren, and the host of The Determined Society, Sean Fraser. Welcome to all of you. Andrew Wilson, let me start with you. Because
okay, so, you know, we got him. I wouldn't call him a tradcon. I guess you'd call him a paleocon. And then this guy seems like a tradcon. This is your tradcon woman, undercover feminist. And this is, I don't know if this guy's conservative or a progressive liberal. I'm guessing progressive liberal.
I've got three sons, 31, 27, 24. I think I brought them up to respect women, to not behave in a misogynist way and to behave in a pretty decent way generally. But I'm also aware that they've grown up in an era when the likes of Andrew Tate and others have become increasingly dominant in the way that a lot of impressionable young men start to think and view women. And for all that Andrew Tate can say that is positive about getting fit and being successful and confident and so on, there's indisputably a hardcore streak of misogyny that runs through his veins, which I think has been quite damaging to young men. So
I know Piers Morgan has interviewed Andrew Tate a few times on his show. I can't remember when the last time was. But lurking in the background, I think, of that question is why are young men so drawn to Andrew Tate? If we're going to use Andrew Tate, fine. Okay, Andrew Tate's super this and that. But why is he so popular to begin with is I think, fair question to ask. And a lot of it is because men and boys don't have better role models because the state has systematically removed the father from the home. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they're missing something. And when they hear someone like Andrew Tate, it activates something primal in them. That combined with the frustration of being raised in a gynocentric culture, it's a powder keg waiting to blow. The blonde guy is a very annoying woke guy. Okay, got it. Yeah, so he's a woke guy. Both blondes on this one are annoying, actually. MCD says, Andrew Tate went viral during April of 2022 through June of 2022. Then he fell off. When surveyed, most guys either don't know who Tate is or disagree with Tate's views. Okay, that's interesting to you, and that sounds about more accurate. I mean, listen, here's the thing. Every, so often, a new hype man comes. You know what I mean? And I look at Andrew Tate as another one of these hype men. And then after, a couple years, their hype kind of wears off a bit. And I think that's kind of the case with Andrew Tate also, Every now and then he'll come out and say something that even I'm just like, yeah, okay, I get it, and it's hilarious. And it's hilarious when he says it to the other side or whatever. But then on the other end of that, there's stuff that I don't, agree with, like calling your average guy childish for not being a millionaire and buying women everything that money can buy. That comes off as completely alpha simp gynocentric. So that's not going to work. Blonde guy is a token. Got it. Don DeMarco says, yep, rainbow representation there. Got it.
Oh, no, not the rainbow version. Never mind. That says rainbow.
Thank you, Dr. Umar.
I'm not all in either way here, but I can certainly see the arguments. Where do you sit?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that so I watched the show and it just goes through a typical feminine view, right? So all of these things are always through the prism of the feminine. So young boys, they don't do well in school. They don't do well in school because it's all programmed for the feminine. Stay still, fold your hands, right? Be quiet. Boys are rambunctious. They like to beat each other up. They like to be mischievous. They like to break things. They like to do that kind of stuff. There's no outlet for them to do that stuff. Their teachers are all women, right? There's basically all masculinity is now considered toxic, basically all of it. The same women who are getting their double shot of espresso on the way over to the school they're about to teach at, they're 24 years old. Sometimes they're banging their own students, right? Hilariously enough. And then these people go out to Parliament. The same women will go to Parliament. They vote to send men off to war to stab each other in the face with bayonets. And you're concerned about toxic masculinity. It cracks me up. It's like the brutal savagery of men is a necessary precondition for society to exist.
That's I shared this in the Discord, and especially when it comes to the draft, and that's always one of the main points I think from the manosphere side, especially when it comes to this discussion of duty, basically. And it's like, well, women want all these things and they want to be equal and all that kind of stuff. But then when it comes to either, I think with the draft, the parity is giving birth to children for women. Okay. But if they're not going to do that, then the draft starts to make sense for them too, especially past a certain age. And I put in, let me see if I can bring it up real quick. I got to be careful with Twitter sometimes. Yeah, so here this is on on X, and it says, translation, Denmark introduces conscription for women following Sweden and Norway. This is justified by Russian aggression. So this is a Danish tweet here. I don't understand a word they're saying. But yeah, they're, you know, thinking about getting the ladies signed up for conscription. I went to Denmark once, by the way. Oh my God, see, there you go. So, hey, listen, I mean, you know, we got technology. There's a rifle, there's this and that. I don't know if they'd make good soldiers or not. I think a lot of folks would probably say maybe not the best idea, but Denmark, Sweden, and Norway seems to think otherwise. And I mean, this is kind of the natural end here of feminism getting its way, is going to be, okay, well, equality for everybody. So they're considering that.
In dem es die Wehrpflicht für Frauen gibt. Grund ist vor allem die Sorge vor Russlands Aggression.
Okay, yeah, aggression. That was the only word I got from that. But anyways, yeah, I thought that was interesting, right? So that's just, you know, what he mentioned there about the draft reminded me about that. Mr. Pitt says, I want to know what everyone thinks of the new allegations against Tate. This girl seems like she's posted actual evidence, and apparently Florida is opening some sort of investigation into him. I heard about that too. I didn't look too deeply into the story, but I saw that. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a Matrix attack. I mean, hey, maybe it really is something that he did. So again, you know, I mean, they've come after him hard. I can't be one of those people that's all lies. I don't know. Maybe it's true. And if it is, then so be it. I haven't looked too deeply at that. Let me see if I could find something. Maybe we could pull it up on here. Sometimes, though, some of the stuff I see on Twitter, like especially when Tradcons come after him and they're like, oh my God, he choked her and he did that. Part of me is like, how much of this is just them having BDSM fun and she's into it? All I'm saying is I've met plenty of women out here who that's what they want. Like that, when it gets down to it, that's what they're looking for. As crazy as that sounds. It sounds weird, but you know, a lot of them are into that. So then I'm like, okay, is that what it is? Or is it he did that against her will and all these kinds of things? Let me see. Andrew Tate, Florida woman accuser lawsuit. Let's see what we get. NBC News. Okay. Oh, here we go. Los Angeles woman. All right. Let's see what the newest Tate allegations. Oh, come on, man. I got to get my ad blocker off. Refresh. All right. U.S. woman sues Tate brothers, accuses them of luring her into webcam business. It's the first lawsuit filed in the U.S. against the controversial internet influencer and his brother, who are under investigation in Romania for crimes including human trafficking. All right, yeah, okay, so we got this going on. Jane Doe's countersuit comes after the Tate brothers sued her for defamation in 2023. Well, okay, so is that a countersuit coming, or sounds like it's not really a fresh case, but it's a countersuit, accusing her and another woman of giving fabricated evidence to the Romanian authorities. But Jane Doe has been relentlessly harassed, threatened, and sued for merely cooperating with the Romanian authorities. Is that the filed a countersuit? Okay, so she was, I guess, in Romania. All right, here's the red mark. Now, I mean, listen, I don't want to be, I don't want to write off her allegations, but man, some people be in there just hitting themselves sometimes and then taking pictures. I don't know. But it could have been him. Los Angeles woman who dated Andrew Tate says she feared I might pass away. Brian Stern alleges her 10-month relationship with the online influencer culminated in a violent sexual encounter at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Okay, so this I think is a different one, where she says he beat and choked her. Okay. Now, see, to some women, that could be a good time. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's what the case is here. A Los Angeles model who says she dated Andrew Tate for 10 months. Okay, it got violent. I was scared. Oh, my God, it was scary. So scared I was terrified that I might die. Stern, in her first interview since filing the lawsuit Thursday, said she has received online threats after coming forward about her experience with Tate, a self-described misogynist and anti-feminist. I'm scared of him. No one has ever really spoken out against him before. Tate's on Friday. Lawyer for Tate said it's unfounded and sensational. Sorry, guys. I just feel like going over this. She said she first met Tate and his brother Tristan when they invited her last summer to Romania to participate in photo shoots related to content creation for their cryptocurrency meme coin. Okay. So she's saying they kind of laid out this trap. At the time, the Tate brothers... Okay, last summer... Let me be honest, though. If you're going to visit the Tates in Romania last summer, you've probably... A cursory Google search will let you know what kind of business they're in. But whatever. At the time, the Tate brothers, both former kickboxers and dual U.S. British citizens, were embroiled in accusations related to sexual misconduct. Stern said she was unaware of the media coverage about them. Come on. No, you were not unaware of it. Come on now. He was so warm and loving and kind, and I hadn't seen anything on the internet about him, she said. I guess I kind of live under a rock. Wow. Well, all right. She said that she continued to communicate with Tate when she left Romania and went home to Los Angeles, and that is declarations of love. Here comes the lover boy method. And seeing a future is what won her over. I thought these people that say negative things about him, like, that's crazy, Stern said. They don't know him. And he told me everything on the internet was just a facade. There was a tough guy act that he had put on for views, and that equated to his income. Okay. In the suit, Stern claims Tate's behavior grew more aggressive over time, and the last incident was the worst. On March 10th, the suit says the couple checked into a room at the Beverly Hills Hotel where they were having consensual coitus. Early the following morning, Tate then began to choke her, and she began crying and begging for him to stop. He would not, according to the complaint. Tate continued to choke and beat her repeatedly on her face and the top of her head. And days later, she was diagnosed with a concussion after seeking medical attention while in New York, according to the complaint. Dang. Tate really did that? Stern is seeking an immediate restraining order against Tate. All right, yeah, so they're doing the thing. We implore the public and media to refrain from premature judgments until all facts are established and to resist the temptation to amplify anything. Stern's suit also includes text messages she said Tate sent her over the course of her relationship. One allegedly reads, "I will ruin your life, grape you, and kill you." Now, that could just be a really kinky thing going on. I want to see all the messages. I want the context here, if there is. In another text, Tate allegedly wrote, "You backtalk too much, whore, so I beat you. I will hit you today, but I love you," according to the suit. Anyways, I think we've seen enough about that particular suit. So, yeah, we'll be watching that. We'll see where it goes. Thank you for the update on that, Mr. Pitt. MCD says most guys are beta simps and would fold like a deck chair for a mid. There are very few men who are actual alphas or geniuses like Einstein or Newton. Most guys are low IQ betas. Well, I'd like to think most folks are average. Klaus says the clip basically said what you already summarized with more words. Yeah. So have I, Shah. They want some extra rough sometimes. It blew me away. Yeah, I gotta be honest. I don't know if it's just the way I look or something, but I'm talking about like 90% of women that I've met. It seems to go that direction. Which is fine. So is that this Emma chick? Emma. No, I can't remember what her name was. She met Andrew Tate in a hotel. She knew exactly what was going to go down. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to not believe all women here, but it sounds a little suspicious. Yeah, last summer all the allegations were out. She's a moron. These 304s always play innocent and play the victim and avoid accountability. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to see where that suit goes.
And we just kind of pretend like it's not. And this show should actually be an indictment on the feminine rather than the masculine, because basically masculinity is just punished everywhere all the time, nonstop. It's no wonder guys like Andrew Tate get so famous in these spaces. I mean, what's the alternative? The alternative is everything must be feminine, tone policing, nonsense like this. It's ridiculous.
All right, James Barr, you were laughing, but I don't think you had a joy what you're hearing.
No, I mean, I don't think you've seen the show. Episode 2 is shot entirely in a school. I didn't see one of the female teachers drinking a double shot of espresso at all. None of the teachers were flirting with students. There were male teachers as well. I don't think...
I mean, I think he's talking about stuff in general. This is like, well, I didn't see any of these things literally happening in the movie, but he's talking about an overall culture here. Not what was in the according to this guy, not in the show.
I think you're describing the show here. I think you're describing your own insecurities or agenda.
Yeah, so this doesn't contend with the argument. Like, do you understand that I'm making an argument, the indictment of society itself, based around my ideas that I'm seeing from this show? That's what I'm actually doing. So if you could contend with the fact that male savagery is necessary for the security of a nation, and that women will indeed vote in the future in parliaments to send men off to war to stab each other in the face at 18 years old with bayonets, perhaps you can contend with that before we start, getting into, well, tone policing is actually good and toxic masculinity is actually bad. It's like, I think there needs to be a little bit more toxic masculinity, or what you consider to be toxic masculinity.
Well, great. Good for you.
Nothing.
I'm glad you think so.
Nothing.
No, I mean, I just don't need to argue with that, because
you just unlocked. You just stunlocked. You got nothing.
That's kind of the thing about these Piers Morgan debates. I used to watch more of this blood sports stuff. I don't really. This one went viral, so I wanted to react to it, but that's kind of what this debate's going to be. So there's probably going to be a lot of talking over each other and things like that, and that's just the nature of the beast on this channel.
You're making up an agenda.
You do seem unusually muted by that,
I've not said anything. I haven't literally said nothing about
James, you were literally rendered silent.
He kind of just went off on this random thing, like, well, I didn't see any women taking double shots of espresso in there, and all this kind of stuff. It was just kind of a non-starter.
You had no way of responding.
I'll tell you what, you can't argue with a completely illogical argument that had, I've not made any of the
It's a logical argument. You may not agree with it.
I've not made any of the comments.
He's making a perfectly logical argument.
That you are firing at me. None of those comments are things I've said or believe in.
All right, I want to bring Tommy in, because Tommy, you've got a very interesting perspective, I think. You've talked about something different. You call it the pussification of men, which is a great phrase.
I don't know why. Hearing Piers Morgan in his English accent say the word pussification was so funny right there. I didn't hear that one more time.
Something different. You call it the pussification of men, which is a great phrase. I'd love you to just explain what you mean by that. But also, you're not a fan of Andrew Tate or the influence he has. So that makes you, I think, an interesting commentator in this area. So just explain, first of all, the pussification of men.
All right, Piers. Well, I think, and I can't see you all, so forgive me if I'm incorrect here, but I think I'm the only female on this panel.
Correct.
So I'm really anxious to weigh in. Okay, so I think over the last probably...
I'll admit, too, I've heard of Tomi Lahren over the years. I might have seen some of her stuff in the past, but I don't keep up with her. I don't really know much. But I do, know she's a kind of a tradcon.
10 years, there has been what I call the pussification. So I think over the last probably 10 years, there has been what I call the pussification of men. It was everything should be about your emotions and your feelings, and men were emasculated, and this whole concept of toxic...
The thing about this, I guess this thing about pussification of men is... I think it's still derived from somebody's definition of what masculinity is. And I think when these two talk about pussification of men, it tends to be men are supposed to be this kind of provider, protector thing. And if you're doing your own thing, I feel like these will be the first to call you not masculine and all this kind of thing. So I think we're in this kind of position of trying to figure out what happens going forward, where I do think a lot of the folks here, and even Andrew Wilson, are not really trying to create something new in a new environment that we have to deal with, but more so are trying to go back to a world of traditionalism that I don't think can exist anymore. But that's just something I noticed. So cutting through uncertainty and moving forward on whatever the future holds, I don't know if masculinity will look like what these folks might describe it as.
Masculinity warped the minds of a lot of young men, and they felt masculine, they wanted to be masculine, but society was telling them they should be softer, that it was being toxically masculine if you wanted to play sports and chop wood and go to war. And so men were so emasculated and so beat down that then there was this revolution of what was actually toxic masculinity, the Tate brothers and others, which I feel as a female that doesn't represent true masculinity. That to me represents douchebaggery. And as a woman, I want a strong man who is a protector and a provider that will go to war if need be.
See, so these are all the utility values from what a woman values from a man.
That will protect me, protect my family, make money. I see
protect my family, make money.
that as being actually masculine. That's like the man that I grew up with, my dad. But what we're seeing now is these young men who look at Andrew Tate and the Tate brothers, and they see somebody who's just quite frankly a douchebag and disrespects women. And because they've been so emasculated, they're like, oh, great, that's a manly man. But that's not right either. So at some point, I think we'll go back to maybe meeting in the middle here. You can be a man who has feelings and emotions, but you can also go to war and protect and defend your family. I'm hoping we can get back there. But the two
I don't even know. I mean, a lot of her characterization, I think I get what she's trying to say, but I think society still has always wanted men to go to war. I don't think they're like, oh, you can't go to war. They've definitely wanted men to go to war even throughout all these years. It's just about trying to kind of put a leash on you and have you do things for them, basically serve in a sense. But what Andrews is going to ask later here is, what are men getting in return? And then that creates an issue between them. Man, I'm missing some of the chat here. Mr. Rainbow is just there for the clout and play ditzy, so he can get with an alpha male. Don DeMarco says he stumps both blondies on this one. Andrew Wilson greater than Andrew Tate. Donald J. DeMarco says 3 years ago, Tommy said all men are trash. Her mic logo may as well say hypocrite. Outkick.com. I've never heard of that before. She participated in the emasculation. See, that's actually a fantastic point there. And even I didn't put that together. So shout out to you, Donna Mark. But that's the truth, because I think she's just kind of running on an old program here that she's used to running on whatever her show is and whatever the heck her podcasts have been about. And let's attack the woke left, and the woke left are responsible for this emasculation of men. But women like her are just as much responsible for the emasculation of men and still requiring men to kind of pedestalize women and all the stuff she kind of explained here as this kind of gynocentrism. And she's just as big of a problem as the feminists on the other
extremes
side.
Right now, they're confusing men, and quite frankly, they're leaving women with few choices, and that's the real tragedy here.
You see,
leaving women with few choices.
Completely agree with you, but Andrew, you were shaking your head quite vigorously. Why?
Yeah, I mean, and another, I guess, question that comes to my mind is just like, what about all these married men who do provide for their families, protect, and they did all these things, but their wives still left them, whether tradcons or otherwise? Were those all confused guys also too?
Oh, I mean, it's just more feminist nonsense ultimately. And the covert feminism in society is big, especially on the conservative side. So here's what happens, right? Women need to have feminine virtues for men to be pursuing masculine virtues, for you to say things like, well, men, what I want is for men to protect me and I want men to make money. Well, that's great. What that ends up doing is it gives you a set of privilege in society. What do men get? What do men get for doing that for you? What are we getting from women for doing that? Are we getting chaste virgins on our wedding night? No, we're not getting chaste virgins on our wedding night. Are we getting women of great virtue? No, we're not getting women of great virtue. The idea of courtly love is supposed to be done for women of great virtue. Where are they? Well, they're nowhere. And so in modernity, in society, when female conservative influencers say this, it's actually a form of covert feminism. They're saying, I want privilege in society, right? But what is it women are giving to men to get it? What are they?
I like the kind of laughing and all that stuff. I guess where my mind goes first on this is thinking about like when he discusses the virtues of a woman, and it's probably a biblical definition there. He does mention, virgin and all this kind of stuff. Like when I look at that, I'm kind of looking at this as, okay, if a man's supposed to protect and provide for these women, and a man has to get to a certain point to be able to do that, especially with the way the economy is today and things like that, it's probably going to be a long time, or at least till he's in his mid to late 20s at the earliest, before he can achieve that. And, the likelihood of him being a virgin when that happens probably isn't going to be high. And the woman in his age cohort being a virgin also probably isn't going to be high also. But, I'm always fixated on this concept of the dowry. And it's like, okay, when you think about what women are supposed to bring and what men are getting in return, I think he still kind of goes hard on the protect and provide side, but I would love to hear his opinion on dowry history and about women coming to a marriage with some kind of financial contribution to set up the household, which is what would help young people get married nowadays and I guess stay virgins, you know, because they wouldn't be out here till their late 20s and 30s trying to do that. And I wonder if her father, who protected and provided for her, helped set her up for her marriage. I don't know her history. I wonder at what age she got married and all this kind of stuff. Or if she got married young, kind of like a Steven Crowder style or not. Not chaste in the mouth, NV, maybe chaste in the A. I don't know. Like when it comes to this, I think that whole thing's kind of out the window. You know what I mean? And so here's another question too. And it sounds like an obvious question because the manosphere is going to be like, well, women have more value or they're the gatekeepers of sex or whatever. But why would virginity even be a part of this equation? Because let's say you're growing up in a church like he goes to, or maybe this guy goes to. Aren't the man and the woman both supposed to be virgins? So why is the woman's virginity valued more than the man's virginity? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say, well, you know, nobody cares about a guy's virginity, but then it's like, all right, well then why are men pressured to be virgins also before their wedding? And if they're both supposed to be virgins, then to me, that kind of just cancels out in the equation. So we got to think about other stuff that women are bringing here that isn't just virginity. It's the same thing as male Christian influencers talking about fixing marriage. All the solutions are what men need to do. Yeah, especially with her. Tommy just got married. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering that. Tommy had very night and day difference plastic surgery. That's her face and forehead sort of. See, that's another thing. I mean, I'm not going to get too crazy on that, but let's see. Like, she's sitting here being raised in this kind of very good household and things like that. Why is it that she's married late? If that's true, let me look at that. Spouse is, okay, so she was married 2022, so that's only 2 years ago, and she's 32. Yeah, so she got married at 30, just like everyone else. So it's like, what the hell is she talking about? You know? Like, she's sitting here talking about, I still want to be a feminist till age 30, and then finally, there's not that many good guys to pick to, or to, you know, pick from. And that's why I had to get married late, probably, or whatever. And I mean, to be honest about him, I think he's talking about going to a time where, I'm not saying he said this. I know he's just asking the question about, well, they're not this, they're not that. But I don't think this world's coming back where the women are going to be chaste virgins and this kind of thing either. So, you know, where we're moving from here, I think, is still yet to be seen.
Giving them. Tell me.
Well,
can I please chime in here?
Yes, you can. And then James can, and I'll come to you, Sean.
No, I would love to. I love this whole thing of like, if you're a female conservative and you don't believe that men should be douchebags, that all of a sudden you're a
That's some kind of BS right there.
feminist. Call me a feminist.
She kind of restated what he was saying very badly. Like, oh, he didn't say, oh, if you don't believe men should be douchebags.
I really don't give one crap one way or another, but I can tell you this. A lot of these men, these podcast hosts on the right that like to think of themselves as these big masculine men, and what am I getting out of it? I can tell you this.
There's that feminism.
All right, I believe I'm a woman of virtue, right?
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the feminism. Oh, and then...
So she called herself a woman of virtue.
All right, I believe I'm a woman of virtue.
See that? She said, I believe I'm a woman of virtue. Okay, it would be interesting to hear her explain what those virtues are, what she considers to be a woman of virtue. And it would be nice to hear him expound more on that. But I don't think this conversation's going to get there. I think everyone's going to start talking over each other.
Right.
MCD says Steven Crowder and Lauren Southern are divorced. These tradcons are terrible at marriage. Well, yeah, I mean, you can even say Steven Crowder's wife was this kind of quintessential, I guess, woman of virtue. I think she was a virgin before marriage and stuff, and it still went that way with them. And you know, Andrew also brings up courtly love. I wonder what his opinion on courtly love is. I mean, I showed this book to you guys earlier. This is from Peter Wright, and he discusses chivalry. And chivalry and romantic love is the sort of kind of grounding for feminism as we know it today, but it's essentially gynocentrism. And this starts to move away from arranged marriages and things, especially in Europe. But this is where relations really change between men and women. And when it comes to courtly love and chivalry, that is a form of gynocentrism and pedestalization. And it even introduced, I guess you could say, forms of degeneracy in European society through courtly love and these kinds of things. So to be honest, this whole thing of courtly love needs to go also. Even if the women were these chaste, virtuous women, still, I would say going back to this courtly love model would be a complete waste of time anyways. It's still inherently gynocentric. I don't think they're going to get into that discussion too much here, but it's something to think about and question. She is a woman of plastic. She definitely follows the Barbie archetype here. I mean, you know what I mean? That's the look. And the very Margot Robbie, I guess, Barbie. Tommy identifies as a woman of virtue. That has to be good enough. Yeah, there you go. Well, she believes she's a woman of virtue. Therefore, she is a woman of virtue. And that means that men have to go fight and die in, some field somewhere and get exploded into pink mist by some drone. Will Buzanaris says Candace Owens wouldn't even use the expression woman of virtue. I got to see what's going on with Candace Owens lately. I know Pearl every now and then asks Candace on Twitter to ask when she's going to apologize for her kind of involvement in skewering Steven Crowder, especially once people found out the footage was edited of him being abusive to his wife. MCD says women only expect chivalry from beta providers. Women give themselves to bad boy chads on the first date. Well, and that's what the red pill has figured out. It's not just guys complaining about it. It's guys understanding these things. It's guys sitting here spinning plates and then realizing the woman they had one-itis for is now more attracted to them than ever. And when they become a bad boy, suddenly they got a rotation of women or whatever. Whether or not it's good to do that's a different discussion. But they figured out, they've deconstructed and looked under the hood of what women's attraction is. And taking that red pill, so to speak, it's very hard to reconcile this whole, well, if men just did all these things and protected and provided and were more masculine according to Tommy Lauren's definition, then the women would like them. There was just too many men who did that and got screwed over. And that's how you end up with someone like Andrew Tate becoming really popular.
Yeah, there's the feminism. Oh, and then you're
and you see what she's doing here? I mean, so he's basically throwing a shit test at her, and she's doing this kind of lean in, agree, and amplify sort of tactic. Look, oh yeah, here comes the feminism. Haha, it's just a big stupid joke. See how ridiculous it is what he's saying?
Interrupting me too,
Didn't
which
take
is great.
long,
I let
did
you
it? Didn't
talk.
take
It's my
long,
turn.
did it?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to speak over me?
Yeah, I don't care if you call me. I don't really care if you call me a
strong,
feminist.
independent woman.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well.
You're actually interrupting me. I didn't interrupt you when you were spewing your bullshit. So now it's my turn. Okay.
So now it's her turn to spew bullshit. All right,
So,
here it comes.
like I said before, so I believe there we go again. Piers, I'm a woman of virtue. I happen to be independently successful. I have a husband who's not only a former professional athlete.
Okay, interesting. So her definition of virtue is being independently successful.
Is currently a
and that she has a successful husband.
Professional baseball coach.
And therefore, since he is a professional baseball coach and married to her, that is evidence of her virtue.
So is he not a masculine man?
It's interesting because her definition of virtue, I would say, would be more akin to, let's say, maybe an ancient Greek definition of virtue versus a more recent definition of virtue, which would be like a religious biblical one, you can say. And it's more about, look at how successful I am and strong I am, and I'm able to perform all these things and do them. Therefore, I am virtuous, but not so much adhering to a, whatever the moral ethical code is.
I mean, I'm confused here. What's your concept of a masculine man? Mine is a man who respects me.
Yeah, that misses the point, though. Like, you're still not contending with the argument that I'm making.
Your point?
Her definition of a masculine man is one that respects her. So if you don't respect her, then you are not masculine, is probably what her father taught her.
Inside of society, right this second, right? Masculinity is not only punished, but also women
Karen,
on the
what's
right,
up, man?
covert feminists on the right, are constantly and consistently talking about how they need to have privilege in society. I want men Their version of masculinity is men who take care of us, men who protect us, men who do all of this. Those are all duties that men have towards women. Great. What are the duties that women have towards men? What are the duties that women have towards anything? What do men get out of this arrangement? What are we getting out of this arrangement? Can you tell me?
I mean, you.
Well, I
as
would
I was going to
argue
answer
that
a
men
second ago.
innately should be protected.
Oh God, yeah, you hear what she just said there?
Can you tell me?
I mean, you.
Well,
as I was going to
argue
answer
that
a
men
second ago.
innately should be protectors.
She said that she would argue that men should innately be protectors. But it's like, no, I mean, that's complete BS. You know what I mean? I think a man has a decision about who he wants to protect and who he doesn't want to protect. And, you know, you have this whole thing of like conditional femininity for women for so long now, especially in the kind of feminist era. There's no reason that men can't be conditionally masculine, you know, when it comes to these things. And I can't stand the whole provide and protect. I can go with the protect thing. Okay, fine. The protection thing, fine. For your family, by the way. So that means your mom and your sister, and then your wife if you're married, the mother of your children, but not for all women or all this just because they exist. That's not the case. When it comes to providing, they have kind of, I think, gaslighted people with that a lot, you know, especially in context of dowry history and how the dowry, you know, worked, basically. So to sit here and say, well, men have to do all the providing all the time and women should never have to worry about money ever is complete BS. I mean, because for so much of history, especially in European history, going all the way back to ancient Greek and a lot of places, a woman could not get married without a dowry. And if you're just going to get bought, like she's kind of suggesting, then she's a concubine. She's not reached the station of wife. Wives, you know, a wife does not come to a marriage empty-handed. So this whole provide thing, it needs to be shouldered by both families, frankly. The man provides in his way, and the woman is going to be providing as she comes into the marriage too with her pre-mortem inheritance, which is the dowry. So, you know, to call herself virtuous and to talk about traditionalism, I think they're so far away from that it just tends to get ridiculous. I did let me see if I can find it. Gosh, come on. Just a second. I did a reply or a quote tweet to Joker, and I think he responded to one of these right here. Let's see if I can bring it up. Joker actually did a discussion with Andrew Wilson today, which I watched, and it was an interesting discussion, so you guys might like that. But he responded to this very clip, and here's Tommy Lauren herself saying, masculine doesn't mean douchebag, just FYI. So this is some more shaming and just feminist whip cracking going on. Call me a covert feminist. I don't give one F. Okay? Joker says, you missed his entire point and never answered a single question of his. If women want men to provide and to protect them, men want something in return. Real men just do this for women, ain't cutting it anymore. You bring too little to the table. And so, you know, I had a good time doing a quote tweet of that. And I said, remember the dowry. This is my hashtag I've been using. Women used to bring plenty to the table. Men need to stop giving away protection and provision for free. And I think this is the key right here. This is where negotiation really needs to come in. And men need to remember the dowry only because it'll help us be better negotiators. And, you know, I put in a few clips, you know, screenshots of some of the papers I've been reading. And, you know, I presented this one on Paul Elam's channel. Among the Greeks who make up about 80% of the island's and I love to look for examples of Western civilizations doing this because it's easy to say, oh, this is something far away. You know, this is just a different culture. Like, no, this is Western culture. Among the Greeks who make up about 80% of the island's population, the family of the bride, this is Cyprus, the family of the bride is expected to give a dowry to the prospective husband. Traditionally, no girl could expect to marry unless her family was able to provide her with the dowry. And if her family couldn't do that, she would have to work and save up for a dowry. In holding to a neo-local residential pattern, the most common form of dowry was a house, including the home furnishings. If parents were very poor, the very least that could be expected were the furnishings for the home, which usually included cooking utensils and hand-decorated lace tablecloths, towels, and bedspreads. So I bring this up because even if the women were virtuous even in a time where you can argue women were more virtuous than they are now, I might be wrong. Maybe they were getting around, like we just don't even know. They were still following a dowry system. There's never been pressure on young men like there is today to provide everything. That's never happened. There was always this weaving between generations of wealth, and the way the society worked and how this marriage pattern works together in a society, it helped transfer money from one generation to another in a way that culturally makes sense. So to sit here and say, oh, well, you young men need to try harder and you gotta, your woman should want for nothing and she should never worry about the bills and she doesn't need to care about the down payment of her house at all. That's just setting up everybody for disaster. I mean, it's not going to work. So when it comes to Andrew Wilson on that, I think this is something that he kind of has a little bit of a blind spot on as well, is that even if the women were chaste and virgins, you still have this economic material problem that needs to be solved, and the dowry and this kind of system helps solve that. So if you're going to go back to a real traditionalism, this needs to be a part of it. If that's not part of the plan, then none of this is going to work anyways. In England, the dowry, England, perfect. This is another thing I put there. In England, the dowry could involve the father in building a house for his daughter and her husband at their marriage, as witness the case from Belpaire, Derbyshire, in 1312, where the son-in-law complained about non-receipt. So we know this because he brought a case against the in-laws for not getting his dowry. In southern Italy today, the provision of the house is often the job of the bride's father, though a woman's dowry may also include land. Shout out to that for the guys looking for trade routes. As already emphasized, dowry-paying societies are stratified, monogamous, and endogamous. Men and women of equal status married. This equal status thing right here is very important. This is the check against hypergamy. In traditional societies where men have economic value, but women do not, dowry as a bequest is consistent with this marriage pattern. Wealthier parents tend to give higher dowries, which in turn render their daughters more attractive to grooms. Grooms who have higher incomes are in turn more attractive to brides. See, that's how that works. If you're going to sit here and have a high income and she's bringing nothing to the marriage, then she should not be talking about marriage with you because she's not ready for that. As a result, grooms with high incomes match with the daughters from families where the optimal size of bequest is large, implying positive assortative matching in the marriage market. That's how it's supposed to be. Here's another clip from the Cyprus study. Another function of the dowry system in traditional Cypriot society was to enable persons to marry and establish a household while they were still young. See, this is a big factor right here. Since it would be improper for a couple to marry and then move in with parents, and since there were virtually no apartments to rent, without the dowry, youth would be in a dilemma. And see, we're in a new dilemma today because we don't have cheap apartments to rent. Everything costs a lot of money. And this is where more pressure is put on young men. And we forgot that society used to have two parts of this equation to figure out the material problem and the economic problem. Since it would be improper for a couple to marry and then move in with their parents, and since there were virtually no apartments to rent, without the dowry, youth would be in a dilemma. This is the dilemma we're in now. There would have been a necessary long delay in marriage if youth would have to provide their own house before marrying. Very much so. We see that now. The dowry system functioned as a means for a young couple to begin marriage without the hardship of undue economic struggle. So yeah, we had some fun there talking about that. Let me just catch up with chat real quick before we get past this. Karen, shout out to you, bro. Good to see you in here, man. Mr. Pitt says, I low-key like Tomi Lahren until she came out as pro-choice. That made me realize TradCon women are just feminists driving the speed limit. That's a great way to put it. Driving the speed limit. Very much true. And it's crazy because it's like in this same vein, she's talking about how she's independent and makes a bunch of money. But then at the same time, she's like, I want a man who provides and protects. If you make all this damn money, why the hell are you talking about provisioning? There's just some kind of weird ass dissonance there. It doesn't make sense. Tomi Lahren's husband equals Chad. However, even Tom Brady and Brad Pitt ended up divorced. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Coach Greg Adams was just talking about Hulk Hogan's divorces. I think he did cheat on his wife. So, I mean, something bad did happen there. But, there's a lot of folks that you can consider that are these high value guys and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, they end up in this kind of same predicament or same issue. Don DeMarco, and honestly, MCD, that's where I realized that while I was working at child support. That's when I started looking at this high value man talk in the manosphere, and I was like, this isn't, there's something missing here. And that, you know, that understanding, which I had from child support, is why I made that video, the one that Pearl actually saw for the first time on my channel, because I questioned that, because I saw so many cases cross my desk where a quote unquote high value person gets screwed over. You know what I mean? And I think red pill purists would be like, well, he was a blue pilled, you know, high value man. And if he was red pilled, but it's like, nah, I don't buy that, only because a lot of the red pilled guys still haven't figured out how to deal with the marriage. If that was the case, a lot of red pill guys would willingly get married and then just maintain masculine frame and competition anxiety and dread game and do that, you know, without worrying too much, but they don't. Don DeMarco says, Tommy went to UNLV, if I'm not mistaken. Can't really believe she didn't party it up. She's not showing up with much virtue unless UNLV is a Christian school. I mean, yeah, I mean, we don't know, but you're probably right. Rolo says evolutionary. I mean, listen, if she waited till 2022 to get married at age 30, then, I mean, you tell me what happened from 18 to 30. You know what I mean? So something did. Marriage causes divorce. Rolo says evolutionarily, men have a burden to provide because she has the burden of childbirth and childcare. Yeah, you know, I'll be honest. I don't really buy that, to be completely honest. I think there is a little bit of too much emphasis on evolutionary biology to kind of reinforce a gynocentric, like they seem to be coming at it from a gynocentric worldview. And Peter Wright does a lot of research on this, and he emphasizes the role of the family and all that stuff, especially when it comes to childcare and things like that. So that stuff tends to get in the way of, you know, kind of what's said here about childbirth and childcare, and you know, that forever creates this burden. I can say that the burden of protection could be on men. I would yield that one. I'm not really against that. You know what I mean? I think men would, you know, do that or be better suited to do that, as evidenced by our history in war and all this kind of thing. But when it comes to provisioning, I don't buy that, especially when you look at different societies, especially, you know, Bridewell societies and a lot of early societies that were bride price or bride wealth, and polygynous, because the women had economic value. So they were providing by working on the farm and using the digging stick and the hoe to help with farming and all that kind of stuff. So they do work. They do provide another kind of value that isn't this, you know, just being a broodmare or whatever, you know, just popping out the kids, so to speak. That's a dope post, Shah. I don't do Twitter X, but still, yeah, I don't blame you for not doing that. You know, Twitter's interesting. I'm on it a lot, probably more than I should be. But yeah, it is kind of a cesspool sometimes. Marriage causes divorce. I would be embarrassed if I was Tommy Lauren's husband. Millionaire Chad baseball player can only get a post-wall Tommy. Oh, man. Oh, man. You're coming in hot with that one, but it's an interesting question. Will Buzenera says, love me some Derbyshire. Good old Derbyshire. Derbyshire. I don't know how to say it properly. MCD says, the richer the woman, the more hypergamous she becomes. It seems like it's genetic. That's an interesting point right there, too.
Hang on one second. Let Tommy
respond. Most men are born that way.
Let Tommy respond to that.
Most men are born that way.
Sean, you've been waiting patiently. So
most men are born to be protectors and providers.
Well, if we're born that way and like women are born that way, then it's like, why is it so hard to get people to do these things? You know what I mean? Maybe we're not exactly born that way and we need a lot of cultural conditioning.
I can't imagine my dad saying, you know what, to my mom, you know what, I'm not going to be a protector and a provider unless you do this. That's not how real men operate. Real men are protectors.
Well, if you can't do that, then you've lost all leverage. And you may not even need to outright say that. But if they're not holding up their end of the bargain, then something needs to change. This ain't working out, you know? And not to mention, I mean, when it comes to marriage, there's a lot of bargaining going on, negotiating, especially with dowry style marriage and marriage transactions. And a lot of these tough discussions are had. But she's going off of this gynocentric, chivalrous, romantic love model where, you know, my lady is pure and she should never have to face any kind of any unpleasantness, any kind of discomfort. She should never have to worry about all these, problems of how are things going to get paid or whatever. So she doesn't understand, but her model of masculinity is essentially this picture right here. And she just doesn't realize it. Marriage causes divorce. The richer the woman, I read that. Klaus says Tommy's dad is a simp. Very much so. Very much so. And her being this freaking feminist about everything and then saying her dad is masculine is like proof positive of that, Klaus.
And providers, and they marry women who only have some virtue, but also bring a lot to the table as well, that are great mothers, great wives, caretakers of the home. There's nothing wrong with being a traditional wife and mother. You're misunderstanding me if you think that I think that women should just be out doing whatever they want. I think that there are gender roles that should be respected. But I don't think a man needs to get something out of it to be a manly man, a protector, and a provider. If you think you need to get something out of it, I quite frankly don't consider you a real man.
Yeah, she have nothing. She have nothing.
But we'll discuss. I don't consider you a real man. Meanwhile, you got hordes of women out here sleeping with men that do none of this for them. They will run to the prison guy where they're going to get nothing out of. You know what I mean? So there's some sort of disconnect going on.
In a moment, whether Andrew Wilson is a real man.
Piers, I offer nothing. I offer nothing.
She thinks it's funny, but it's like she kind of did do some damage to herself. This was like a pretty viral clip.
You offer me a lot of things, Tommy. That's why I always love having you on the show. You know that. Let's go to a real man, James Barr.
Thank you. I do see myself as a man, and I know that you'll be looking at me thinking, well, you're not. You're wearing makeup. You're wearing colourful clothes. Like, look at me. I'm really camp. My nails are painted.
I mean, they are worrying signs.
You're sat there smoking a cigarette. I'd love to get a vape out and start drinking a beer. You know, pints with the lads. Just connect with you over that. I think that you have some insane opinions on what women are meant to do for you. It's
the thing about this guy, if he's,
No, not the rainbow version.
If he's rainbow, and listen, I believe that people of that stripe should have rights and everything like that. I don't think we should make their lives harder or whatever. But his opinion on men and women's relation is not going to have much bearing. Because, I mean, has this guy ever had to go out there and date women or seduce a woman or whatever the hell it happens to be? So to say that men's opinions on these things are crazy, it's like you're coming from a completely different frame of reference. You know what I mean? So, I mean, what do you want me to say about that? You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know if he can really relate to us. Now, I mean, I'll listen to what he's got to say, but that's something to consider. He's as much a man as I am a woman.
Crazy that you don't appreciate that a woman actually gave birth to you. Like, she gave you a womb for 9 months.
Here's the deal. Listen, this whole women deserve this because they give birth. To your mom, I think you have an obligation to your parents. Anybody does. You have an obligation to your parents. We all do. And that's how society went, especially when your parents become more elderly, both your father and your mother, because they both do things for you. But because, you know, your mom gave birth to you doesn't mean that you owe this woman anything. If anything, the kids she births are going to owe something to her, but it doesn't work laterally like that. No, yes, you do owe your mom, you know, respect and taking care of them and all this kind of stuff. You do not owe other people that. So they can use that attitude with their kids, or, you know what I mean? Well, a woman gave birth to you, yes, and, you know, you respect your mom and do all that stuff. But other women, no, that has nothing to do with me.
And then looked after you, I would hope, for the beginning of your life. And you're sat there going, what do women owe men? Women don't owe men anything. No one owes you.
Okay, then men don't owe women anything. I'm glad we made it there.
Do anything.
We've made it to MGTOW. Fan-freaking-tastic. Shout out to MGTOW. It's a straw man parade, very much.
You have your own
Okay,
life.
do you understand that if you make an argument and you say that
I'd
women are
watch
supposed
your
to be
seminar on how to win an
in a
argument.
position, if women are supposed to be in a position of privilege where men do A, B, C, and D for them, and then I ask, well, what duties do women have? And you say, well, nothing.
No one said
right?
that
And then you
men
wonder,
need-
why are men
personally,
checking out? I don't know why men are checking out. I don't get it.
You just
That's
sound so
silly,
funny.
man.
There we go. Checking out. That's MGTOW, guys.
All right,
That's
let
a
me bring
silly
in.
argument.
All right, let me bring in the one person who so far hasn't said a word about this. Has a lot of interesting things to say. Sean, welcome to Uncensored. I mean, I think one of the key things of this series that's made it so popular is that anyone who's had young sons knows that they are, if you're not careful, they get exposed to a lot of nasty stuff on the internet. We all know this, and a lot of it is this kind of incel stuff, which I think can be a really malevolent influence on impression.
Klaus says, my mom is getting everything she needs from me. I'm doing most of her chores on my weekend. She's the only woman I owe anything. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the way it is. But what women will do is they'll be like, I gave birth to your children. You now have a lifelong debt to me. No, those children have a lifelong debt to you. You gave birth to those children, and I was around helping you do that by, you know, keeping all these things while you were vulnerable and doing the protection part of this equation. Okay. And, you know, while those kids were young, we were both working together to nourish these kids, to educate these kids, to help these kids be successful in society. I don't owe you a damn thing, you know, if you're not going to owe me nothing. So if anything, it does not work like that on a lateral level. It's just like some stupid ass argument. Sorry to cuss, gentlemen.
Young men, and they gravitate to it. And I think that partly what Andrew's getting at, I agree with, in the sense that following the Me Too Time's Up campaigns, which were in many ways, you know, extremely laudable, brought down a lot of very bad men, no question of that. But they also, the pendulum swung so wildly that I think a lot of young men in particular felt completely disenfranchised from society, felt like they're all being treated like a bunch of young Harvey Weinsteins unless they could prove otherwise. They didn't really know what the rules of engagement were with women, with, you know, with teenage girls anymore, whatever. They lost their way. And by losing their way, they gravitated, I think, to very loud voices on the internet.
And, you know, part of them losing their way has a lot to do with the state removing their fathers.
Like Andrew Tate, who I think, you know, like I say, he says a lot of stuff I find myself nodding to, and then he'll say this misogynist stuff, which I just despise it. I see no reason why you should ever want to have a relationship with a woman the way that Andrew Tate wants you to, where it's just pure misogyny.
I just hope that Piers Morgan equally despises misandry as much as he despises misogyny.
But just talk to me first of all about why you think young boys, teenage boys, young men, why they've gravitated to people like Tate. Because they have.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I think it's, you know, first of all, we got to understand that we have an amazing responsibility as a parent to lead from the home and to have these open conversations with our young children. All right, whether they're male children, female children, we have to make sure that we're having open door conversations and we are tackling the hard subjects. Because if we don't take care of everything at home, we don't take care of everything in public, like at school, and other forces within society that help raise our children, we always say it takes a village. Well, it certainly does, but it starts.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, you know, I think that's all part of parenting.
Starts at home. And if you cannot have these open conversations and allow your children to be honest and open with how they are feeling about society and the things that they are seeing, they are going to go to misogyny. They're going to go to the Andrew and Tristan Tates of the world, and they're going to learn how to be a man from that. And that is not what society needs. It's not what the world needs. That is not masculinity. It is masquerading as misogyny.
Okay, here it comes. So he's going to have to give us a definition.
How do we protect young men from the easy access at the moment there is to people like Tate? I mean, how do you actually put a ring fence around them so that you can tackle exactly what you've just said, but they're not also being dragged into that world?
It's tough because they're growing up in a world we never grew up in, Pierre.
Yeah, we got, you know, the information age. We got cell phones in our hands. We're a free speech society, so it's hard to, I guess, just say, hey, that doesn't pass the sniff test. We're going to go ahead and censor and ban you. They've tried that with him. He's come back. Elon Musk has given a platform for everybody, frankly. And then, on the other end of that, we got the nudie videos out here going crazy and people looking at that. Young people getting access to that. That's a problem. That's causing issues. The state's coming in and removing fathers from their kids and having to put them through thousands of dollars of custody battles. That's another problem. So it's a kind of a recipe for disaster.
We didn't grow up with the internet. We didn't grow up with Bumble, Tinder, Instagram, Facebook.
No, I was taught how to treat women by my mother, my grandmother.
Open the door,
my
right?
Aunts,
Open the door.
A lot of strong women in my family, very strong women. And they would just take no crap from the men. So that's the environment I grew up in.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So how do we insulate our children from this? By having conversations, putting parameters.
I mean, kind of what he described, like they would take no crap for the men and doing this and doing that. It does sound like a little bit of gynocentrism. And like, okay, fine, whatever, do that stuff for your family and blood relations. I get that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it does betray a little bit of sense of gynocentrism. Fine.
Around the social media aspects of life and having the conversations at home. Hey, son, hey, daughter, this is what you're going to see.
The other question is, okay, what about teaching the daughters to be this kind of other half of this equation here? What did that look like?
Out there in the real world, this is what you're going to see on the internet.
Is Piers Morgan's family teaching his sister how to cook food or whatever and how to do her version of chivalry, which is like, oh, look, my plate's empty. Let me just come in here and grab that, and take that from you and wash it. Would you like a cup of tea? Oh, perfect. Yeah, you want, green tea, lemongrass, black tea? I'll take black tea. Just a little bit of, not too much sugar, please. Amazing. And then while we're outside, I'm changing the tire and opening doors and doing all that kind of stuff. But this conversation of the other side isn't there. But then even beyond that, like the whole chivalry from both sides things, at least for me, can go out of the window because we have this material economic question to solve. You know what I mean? Is Andrew Wilson, is Piers Morgan, is this guy, are they saving money for their daughters' marriages? You know what I mean? Like, are they saving money for that? I really don't know. So, and if they're not, then I think they're going about that all the way wrong if they're going to sell themselves as traditional. Is that John Deloney's brother? Man, sometimes I listen to John Deloney. I don't know what it is. Like, there's a lot of stuff, I like it when Coach breaks down some of the things he says. There's definitely a lot of gynocentrism going there, but for some reason, I listen to his stuff every now and then. He's an all right guy. I think he's cool. Piers is a son husband. Yeah, that's making some sense right there. Shout out Marcus Gray and Coach Greg Adams. Klaus says the Tate phenomenon or any PUA guru is not the cause, it's the consequence of third wave feminism. Yeah, it's a symptom of a deeper problem. They won't go away until this toxic soft of feminism is reined in. Absolutely. And I think there's a change going on now. I think people are starting to figure out this isn't what it should be, and I want to be positive about that,
See something like this, that is not how a true man is supposed to act. And hey, that's not how a real man's supposed to treat you.
Right. So
we have to have the conversation.
So the thing about him, and I get it, he's talking about masculinity. He's answering Piers' question. I think he still is kind of obligated to answer what Andrew presented here earlier, which is what does the woman's side of that equation look like, which he didn't touch on. But maybe he will. Let's give it some more.
Yeah. Andrew, do you intrinsically disagree with what you've just heard?
Yeah, I do. I think, again, all of this is always the burden on men. Burden on men. Burden on men. Men need to be doing this.
No, it's a family, Andrew. The family.
Hang on. Let
me
finish,
family, Andrew.
He didn't talk about the woman's side of the equation, which was his question.
Husband and wife.
Okay, yeah. So let me back up. Okay. Again, men need to do this. Men need to do that. What I'm talking about is what duties do women have in society? What are the actual women's duties towards men? Everybody is raised from the time they're kids how we're supposed to treat women.
There you go. Beautiful. He asked the question.
All know how to treat women. We never talk about how men are supposed to be treated. That's almost never discussed, especially by how women are supposed to treat men, what their duties in society are. This has been completely
completely
dispelled. Guys like Tate have risen because Christianity itself has become a feminized religion, especially the Protestant sects has become completely feminized. And it didn't used to punish masculinity at all. And now it does. And so where's the alternative? Where's the spiritual alternative? It's nowhere. And we need to get back to this fundamental question of what even is misogyny? Because I don't think that men kicking the crap out of each other, being brutes, you know, insulting each other, hazing each other, even bullying each other is misogyny.
I mean, that all seems to be relatively base stuff, but he can also add in there men negotiating for their own interests. Men acting on behalf of their own interests is not misogyny. You know what I mean? Men saying, hey, we could talk about marriage, but what are you bringing is not, you know, unmasculine or something like that. So that other stuff in there that's more sophisticated than just beating the crap out of each other needs to be talked about as well.
Not only do I not think it's misogyny, I think it's perfectly healthy.
Yeah, but I don't think that. I don't think that's misogyny.
Well-adjusted.
Is that the argument?
But that is not misogyny.
Well, no, hang on. How women see this is tone
misogyny
policing.
is where you have a hatred or you know, whatever you want to phrase it towards women. It's not about men treating men.
Sorry, toxic masculinity is what I'm referencing here, and toxic masculinity is what they're claiming leads to misogyny. So what I'm talking about is these are all masculine traits. There's nothing wrong with them, right? When you're talking about misogyny itself, I want to know what that even is. Is it just asserting yourself to women, telling women no, telling them no, that's bullshit?
No, I would say it's
wrong,
okay. Let me
telling
answer
them you're
you.
saying stupid things.
Andrew Tate says he's quite open about.
I like what he just said there. You know, asserting yourself. Donna Marcus says, "Oh, good point. Advocating for your own interests isn't misogyny." Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's again why I focus on the dowry and bring up those historical things. Even if we can't bring a system like that back, because things have changed and technology and all these kinds of things, we can at least draw wisdom from it and help to give us a better negotiating position and understanding. And I think that's what men have failed at the most, is this negotiating when it comes to something, especially like a long-term thing like marriage.
Women should stay at home.
Men have not negotiated marriage correctly for a very long time.
They shouldn't go out to work. They should do what he tells them. He's the king of the castle in his house, blah, 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 blah. That is misogyny, isn't it? You know, I've got a daughter. I've got a 13-year-old daughter.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, if you're going to go with this chivalric thing, and she's saying men need to protect and provide, that's funny. I mean, she didn't say anything about men leading or about women submitting. But if a man's going to be out there and put his ass on the line all the time and do this protecting and all this kind of stuff, then if you can't come in your own house and say how things are going to be, then, you know, what the hell's the point anyways? There's got to be a different calculus here.
I don't want her thinking she can never leave the house. She's somebody's chattel.
It's not never leaving the house. Look, it is true that the world would be a better place if we didn't have it inverted and women did have a natural role at home, and that was glorified, and that there was government propaganda around the nuclear family and keeping women home. Why do you want to outsource the raising of children to strangers instead of your wife? That's a way.
That used to be outsourced to, you know, other relatives and the grandparents and things like that. So, you know, I'm not one of these people that are like, oh, women shouldn't work and should stay home. And, you know, that's not me, only because historically, you know, women have worked and produced and all these kinds of things. I understand people that have the opposite opinion. The tough part is we live in these mega civilizations now where, you know, you get in cars and you drive to the other side of town to do your job or whatever it's going to be. And that presents kind of probably an issue with fidelity sometimes, because people are not just on the homestead farm all the time. But you know, we live in a new world. Women can do things. They can write books and do this and all this other kind of stuff. The question is what does good family planning look like? You know, there is such a thing as people getting together and then maybe she stays home for some amount of time till the kids are big enough or something, and then goes back to working, and that's perfectly fine. Whatever it is, people need to figure out, or at least think about good family planning.
Better society. Why do you want your best and brightest women forced to go to a workplace instead of the best and brightest women staying at home raising their children? That's a way better system.
And I mean, the position we're in now with how expensive things are and the way the economics works and, you know, women taking away jobs from women. I think, you know, I understand what Andrew's saying, but I think the tough part for him is Are we really going to go down this path to where women lose, equal rights status and men are given preferential treatment for jobs and things like that? I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't see it happening. I mean, it'd have to be a long ass time, and there'd have to be probably a big collapse, and the collapse would have to be so bad that we are incapable of reconstructing the current technological systems that we have in place now that enables our modern day living system.
Always been a better system.
I guess we're talking freedom of choice.
That's not misogyny.
Women to do anything. It's freedom of choice. It's freedom of choice.
See, he brings up an interesting concept here, which is freedom, and this is the issue, because it's like, I don't think he necessarily said taking away. He did say forcing women to work. I don't know if that's the case, but economically, people are in that situation, and if it's not economically, then they want to do it because it goes into this concept of freedom, and that's where we are as a society. So the question is like, do we value secularism, or are we going back to some kind of religious ethical system? When it comes to the United States of America, my understanding is that we live in a secular democracy, and religion is relegated to the private sphere of life. And, people can promote their religion and they can worship how they want, but if they're going to encroach on other people's freedoms, then that's a violation. They need to be pushed back. So that's kind of the place that we're in here.
I love the fact that my wife's out there working, teaching kids and building Adolescence. I love that.
I do wonder what their family situation is like. Do they have other kids? Was she at home when the kids were young? Did they pay for daycare? What's the situation there?
I love that. And
then maybe after they're older, then she went out to work. I am curious.
To your point about what do I get from a woman?
Now, if she's out there working, I would see, like, I wish I can kind of lift up the skirts on all these people's houses and just look at the finances and see who's paying what, who's contributing what, how that works out. Because that would answer a lot of questions and make things fair. Like, did she put in on half the house, or did her husband do that? Is she holding on to her own money? What the hell? Does her husband make an assload more money than her? Sorry to cuss. I mean, I don't know. It would be great to be able to understand those things.
I have a home. I have 3 beautiful children. I have communication in the house. And to me, that means more than anything. Like, I don't understand where I'm not saying you're wrong in your world, but to sit there and say to a woman, what do I get out of this woman? That's treating her like an object.
Well, at the same time, men are being treated like objects. I mean, protect and provide and go to war. I mean, you're being treated like a tool, a utility value object.
One thing I want to play a clip.
Okay, so it's okay to treat men like objects.
There we go. Perfect. I mean, right on time.
Duties,
I
but
don't
you're not
feel
allowed
like
to
an
give
object.
women duties.
I feel respected.
Okay,
in my
well,
house.
That doesn't matter if he feels like an object or not. I mean, that's different kinds of conditioning. But if you're going to say one way is objectifying somebody, then it is the other way.
I'm not angry about it.
How come it is in the United States that men can be drafted? Women can't be drafted, but women can vote to send men to war. 18 years old, they're stabbing each other in the face with bayonets. Women can vote to send men to war that they then themselves do not have to fight.
The parity is supposed to be childbirth on that end. Like, my opinion with the draft is that if a woman has 1 or 2 kids or whatever, and I would say they also need to be actively in that kid's life. They can't fly off to Vegas and pursue their dreams of being a Vegas person while they left their family. You know what I mean? If a woman if the draft for men will be 18 to 25, at least for that first thing that they take from, I think depending on how bad it is, it goes up to like 36 or something. Congress could probably change whatever the hell they want at any time anyways. But for women, it should be, if you're 27 to 35 and you don't have kids, then you should be liable to the draft just as much as the men are. And it might even be better just because they're older and maybe a little bit more mature. So they might be more useful, at least in the military that way. But that's really what the parity is supposed to be when it comes to that.
It's a duty that men have, they do not have. What's the counter duty for women? There's no obligation.
It should be birthing children, but they're not forced to birth children.
For women to have children,
there we go.
Replacement rate. What's the counter duty for women? There's no obligation for women to have children, well under replacement rate. It's slated 45% of women will be single in the next 10 years.
Every time she smiles, it's like he's got her on something, and she's just like, oh crap, I better smile, and I'm trying to figure out a way to to get out of that argument. I think it's a little bit of a tale. Watch her.
Under replacement rate. What's the counter duty for women? There's no obligation for women to have children. We're well under replacement rate. It's slated 45% of women will be single in the next 10 years, up to 60% in the next 30. That's the estimates right now. Our replacement rate, we can't even replace our own country's birth rates. That's how low they are.
Maybe
this is what we're seeing as a systemic issue in
just some snarky, smart alecky thing. I mean, you know, come on.
Side of society, because nobody will put duties on women.
Go on,
Instead,
James.
you just
Maybe it's men like you that are making that
Maybe that's why the
Maybe you're the
replacement rate is low.
I mean, I don't know. Is he the problem? I mean, he is married with some kids, so you know, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
it's crazy to me as well that you are just sat here.
Don't talk over each other. Let James speak.
I can't understand why you are sat there confidently thinking of yourself as a victim constantly. You have a platform and you're sat here like
I mean, he didn't address anything about what he's mentioning about the draft and being able to vote to send men to war and not having any, you know, other duties or opposite duties for the woman. He didn't address any of that. It's just like, well, yeah, you know, maybe it's because of guys like
Tim,
you.
what are women doing for me? What happened in your childhood that has made you...
What's wrong with asking that question? What are women doing for me? I can understand not being rude about it or not saying, well, I did this for you and now you owe me this. But a man should contemplate before he leverages everything he works for into, hey, what am I getting out of this deal? It's a negotiation. It's deal making. And when you go there and you make a deal and you get these marriages happening, you have to think about how is this interfacing together? What's being exchanged here? What's the value of this? How is it going to be better for both families, for both people?
So traumatized as an adult that you cannot stand women succeeding. I'm so confused. I feel like the problem is not...
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of standard sort of, you know, feminist whipping right there. You just can't stand women succeeding. It makes you insecure.
Actually, maybe this is our...
And she's loving it. She's loving that. They're both on the same page.
Maybe this is the left's fault. Maybe this is...
I don't really think this guy's that bad, but I mean, he can do to you know, maybe try to empathize with men a little bit more and try to see, okay, what is it that we can change about our cultural conditioning of men and women to kind of make this better?
Is modern society's fault for leaving people like you behind, but genuinely, we do not hate...
I don't know if society's really left him behind. I think he's doing pretty well. I mean, frankly, by society's standards. Klaus says, yeah, he's so confused. I can get behind that.
Men and toxic masculinity has been thrown around a lot. Ultimately, some of what you're saying is toxic, but that's not because you're a man. That's because you're an idiot.
Ha 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 ha.
All right.
Okay. So,
you know, it just kind of went nowhere. Nobody answered any of the questions, or I wish they would have drilled deeper into it. But sometimes that's the nature of these kinds of blood sport debates. It's more about just trying to get one on each other and this kind of thing.
So just to give you a quick rejoinder here, again, didn't contend with a single argument I made. You just said, why are you acting like a victim? While you're here talking about how women are victims.
You're not contending with arguments that other people
It's
are making.
wild to me. It's so wild.
I wonder which arguments that he didn't contend with.
You know this is Piers' show.
Let me play another clip.
I know this is Piers' show.
Let me go to...
No, you.
Tommy, I want to play you a clip. This is from a show called Newsnight on the BBC in the UK, where the host Victoria Derbyshire had a panel of young men on and asked them, when was the last time you cried? Let's watch this.
When was the last time you cried?
It's a trick question.
Honestly, the last time I cried, I couldn't.
All right, fine. Let's see.
Tell you.
Same with
Maybe it's not a, you know, let's see what the folks got to say. Are these, I wonder if they're school-aged kids or if they're in college.
Time you cried. Let's watch this.
When was the last time you cried?
Honestly, the last time I cried, I couldn't tell you.
Same with Leo. I can't really remember the last time that I cried fully.
A lot of times I feel emotion and I look at myself, why can't I cry? We're told to suppress our emotions.
I feel like to guys, we may be treated a certain way that evokes an idea that we have to be extremely strong and upfront and here as a man. And
real quick, shout out to Caesar Quintana. Yo, Caesar, welcome in, man. And thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate that. What's up, Shah? Man, I'm just big chilling over here. Today's the last day of Ramadan, so that's pretty cool. And just enjoying this debate here. Other than that, just enjoying my CRT television and retro gaming system. It's been a fantastic week. Very cozy watching that. I hope you're doing well, man. I hope you're doing well. Klaus says he did not address a single issue, just calling him an idiot. Yeah, that's basically what happened. All right, now he's talking about something interesting. He's talking about how cultural conditioning about men not being able to cry or not, being shamed if they do that. I think it's kind of an interesting thing too, because our culture, at least one side of it, has done a lot to try to get men to be more emotional, and they've done this through, different kinds of psychotherapy and therapy basically, and that's what it's all been about. And there's been this kind of active push towards that. But men do understand that a lot of times women, especially romantic engagements in their life, if they open up that way, it's okay for men to open up. I believe so. It's okay to open up to a mentor or a coach or a brother or whatever it is, and have those discussions. But to sit there and open up with the, your romantic partner and you guys are supposed to be doing this dance of attraction is a bad idea. And men have figured out that it gets thrown back in their faces, when they do that.
Front and here as a man, and I'm going to be composed at all times.
Now, I've got a slight issue with this, Tommy, in the sense that one of the most devastating moments for me as a movie watcher was watching James Bond blubbing in the last Bond movie. Right? I don't think to prove you're a modern man, you need to be sobbing all the time.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I don't think you need to make a big show of it or sit here and say, look how amazing I am. I'm in touch with my emotions. I think men should be, process their emotions just like any human. Any human's going to do that. And sometime in your life, you might end up crying about some stuff. I mean, and even as a man, I mean, there are tough things that happen in life, and losing someone, or, there's a period of mourning there, or even from a really bad heartbreak, it can happen. But, doing it the way they're telling you should do it is stupid. So there's other ways to process emotions that are going to be different.
I can't remember the last time I cried. It doesn't make me less of a man or less empathetic to people or anything. I just think again, the pendulum issue of what we want men to be. I think we're now trying to persuade a lot of young men, if you're not emoting all the time.
Klaus says being in touch with your emotions does not mean showing them to the world. Yeah, that's the problem, is they're using it as ammo against you. You can pick and choose who you care to bare your heart to and to open up to and make yourself vulnerable to. Ultimately, it is a discussion about vulnerability. And men have realized that there is a time and place for vulnerability, and oftentimes it's not with your romantic partner or with, these people that depend on you or whatever the case is. So this, sometimes it feels like a bit of a trick. I don't want to say it's a trick question. I guess in certain contexts it's okay, but it feels like a trick question often, because first of all, it's like, I don't need to talk to you about that. Why are you asking me that? You know what I mean? So therapy is also kind of a weird thing to me. Hey, I think it could be beneficial for some folks, but it also feels like kind of a emotional form of prostitution. It's like hiring an escort to help you deal with your emotions. And there's always this weird corollary. Like, you often hear about escorts talking about how people pay them sometimes so that guys can sit there and talk about stuff with them, or feelings or stuff that they feel like they can't do with their wives, or I don't know what the hell, whatever it is. I've heard of stuff like that before, but it's almost like paying for somebody to be your friend, to listen to you, which kind of feels weird to me also, because there's like a layer of authenticity that's missing. But, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
Then you're being suppressed in some way. We have over here the British stiff upper lip, which I think is a really bad rap. I think it's not a bad thing to actually not over-emote. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's...
Oh, sorry, Sean, I'll come to you. That was for Tommy. I'll come to you in a minute, Sean.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
For Tommy.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, Piers. I don't think that men should be trained to be overly emotional and that should be a sign now of new maturity, being emotional. I don't agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with men crying in certain circumstances. Listen, everybody has a different journey. Everybody has a different set of circumstances. There are circumstances wherein men crying I have no issue with. It's also not up to me to tell a man when he can or cannot cry. I personally prefer the men in my life not to be overly emotional, but that's just a personal preference.
I mean, and again, I don't think she's saying anything wrong here. I mean, I think that's how most women feel, especially when it comes to, men that they're attracted to or whatever. It can diminish attraction between men and women. And again, this is another thing that the red pills figured out, and to not be too needy emotionally and these kinds of things. And there's 1,000 stories on the red pill subreddit about men who were in a relationship and they started being too emotional and then they lost their one-itis or whatever the heck it was. And they went through this big heartbreak period. And, a lot of guys, especially young guys, are going to go through some heartbreak and you're going to look back and realize kind of some of the things you did wrong. And then you're going to get more experience with women and you're going to realize what works and what doesn't work as far as attraction goes. And she's kind of admitting there like, oh yeah, I don't prefer that, but it's just a preference. But a lot of women seem to have that preference. Even if they say otherwise, the attraction will still diminish. Even though if they'll sit there they will sit there and encourage you to cry and open up. And then when you do, they will get the ick and lose all attraction to you.
Really, who am I to tell a man how he should exhibit his emotions? But again, I think that there is two sides here that are both too extreme. You've got the one hand that wants men to be feminine and cry and show their emotion and be weak. And then you've got the other side that says you cannot cry, you must always be strong, and you should look at women as an object. So
kind of a straw man there because she's totally looking at men as objects. So, it just that's one of those weird, the first part of her statement was interesting, but then it becomes like, okay, that's just another sort of buzzword thing there.
Again, there's got to be a happy medium.
Looking at me like an object.
Here, I think there once was, but now because of, again, I agree, there was an overreaction of the feminist movement to make men weak. I don't agree with that either.
Yeah.
I just wish we could come to a place where there was a happy medium where people could just be human beings who could have a gender role but weren't married to that gender role.
You can have a gender role, but you can step out of the gender role. But then, there's this, and we can have your cake and eat it too.
Absoluteness. There's
the absoluteness. There's the gray area. I want to be able to do this sometimes and then do that sometimes.
There's got to be a place.
This is where, for me, it's like traditionalism's not coming back. You know what I mean? And I know that sounds really negative, but traditionalism in the sense that we apparently knew it at, and frankly, most people's version of traditionalism doesn't even really seem to match. Whatever the hell that fantasy is, I don't think it's coming back unless society literally regresses into these same environmental circumstances that brought out the way it used to be back then. When with technology and globalization and cell phones and the internet and things like that, I don't know if it's really going to happen that way. But I'm sure on a long enough timeline, there will be war and destruction and all these kinds of things and droughts and famine and economic uncertainties and plagues and all these kinds of things and other hard times. But still, humanity moves forward, progressing in one way or another. So I don't think, I think something new needs to come. That was interesting. She associated being emotional with being weak. I mean, they all do it in one way or another. Even if they think they don't do that, it comes out eventually.
For that, I would certainly hope.
Yeah. Andrew Wilson, when was the last time you cried?
When I had a death in my family.
Perfect. That seems,
And how long ago was that, if you don't mind me asking?
Many, many, many years. Many years. I don't know, maybe a decade, something like that.
Right. So you haven't shed a tear in a decade?
I don't think so, no.
Would you see it inherently as a weakness in a man to over-emote?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Men, listen, you don't want men to fall to pieces in crisis. You're the head of a family. You're the head of your household. And also you're the heads of nations. You have a...
Do you guys remember Copper Wire Guy? He wasn't even crying there sitting on his pickup. He was just being introspective, or he was just, I don't know, thinking about his life, looking at the the tail end of this copper wire spool that he had for like 20 or 30, from the beginning of his career to the end of it. And even that was like too much for his wife. You know what I mean? So it's like, if he was sitting there crying on the back of his pickup, I don't know, you know. And listen, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with crying. I think the issue is going to come in with what it tends to do with attraction. And if you're in this over-leveraged relationship where you have to provide everything and she doesn't do anything, and then you happen to cry one day because you're human and she loses all attraction for you, and then that's that. Well, that's just a crappy position to be in. So it's best to not be in an over-leveraged position, and you may end up shedding some tears, even in front of your wife, even if you wouldn't want it to be like that, but something might happen. And you know, if it ends or whatever, it's not going to be complete devastation. It would still suck. A family would be destroyed. But all I'm saying is men are on this tightrope kind of walk, especially if they get married according to the standards of our present culture. Mr. Pitt says, Tommy literally just admitted that she believes the feminine role is negotiable, but the masculine role isn't. Oh, man, fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic right there. Excellent catch, Mr. Pitt. That's exactly what she did. Why can't we meet this happy medium and then this and that and the gender roles? But then earlier here, she's like, well, men are this and you're not a real man. And she said that with so much, you know, oomph or gumption. I don't know what the word is. And then now she's talking about, well, you know, and this, and you don't got to be with the gender roles. It's like she may as well be a progressive when it comes to that. And fine, listen, I'm not even, whatever people's opinions are, but there is a contradiction there, which you so beautifully highlighted. Shout out to you, Mr. Pitt. Klaus says exactly, and she didn't even realize it. That is, yes, exactly. Exactly. It is, they're brought up to be, the culture makes them like this now. And that is even why she can't seem to understand what he's saying. He's saying these things directly to her, but she just can't process it in the same way because she has these huge unconscious biases that she needs to unravel.
A moral obligation not to fall to pieces. In fact, I would say you're duty bound not to. You need to be able to control your emotions, and you need to be able to attempt to control them at all times. It's not to say that you're not going to lose control. Nobody's perfect. But I think that the idea of the stoic man is a much better prospect for the idea of like this leftist that I'm arguing with next to me on the panel. I would not want to be that guy, that person who just cannot control their internal emotions. They can't do it. And unfortunately, again, this is through the viewpoint of the feminine prism that it's only through empathy, right? Empathy first. And it's like, no, it's not always about empathy. It's also about reason. It's also about logic. It's also about understanding that we live in a carnal world full of warring tribes who are always killing each other. And that's part of the human condition. You can't afford to have your men losing control to emotion or to empathy.
James, when was the last time you didn't cry on a date? Let's flip the question around.
I haven't cried today, but I did cry yesterday, and I think it's okay to cry. And it's funny that you keep trying to goad me and saying that I don't have control of my emotions. I think I have incredible control over my emotions.
You know, I think someone like him can afford to cry. Again, he's not out here dealing with women. I mean, she literally just said her preference in a man is someone who doesn't really do that all the time or whatever. But he doesn't have to worry about that because he's not, you know, in the field, so to speak. He's playing a different thing. That might even raise his attraction in his neck of the woods, if you know what I'm saying. So it's just a different thing.
Just because I know what's upsetting me and when, and I'm able to talk about it.
Well, how often do you cry?
I mean, not all the time, but
every day?
No, not every day, Piers. I cried
2 or 3
yesterday.
times
I probably
a week?
haven't cried for about 3 weeks before that. But honestly, my therapist tells me I need to cry, and it's a good relief.
But the point being, Andrew hasn't cried in 10 years.
I think that is such a weakness, Andrew, that you haven't cried in a decade. Like, that's crazy to me.
My therapist told me I could cry.
I'm so worried about you. I can't understand. Well, you're crying now, and please, I happily facilitated that for you.
I think we're seeing the two extremes that Tommy was talking about.
It's honestly, yeah, Tommy, you're so right. There's no nuance. I mean, it's difficult to have nuance on this show anyway, but we do need to find some in this debate.
I think the point is men should not feel they can never emote, but also they shouldn't be encouraged to believe if they're not constantly emoting, there's something wrong with them.
Well, of course, but also...
that's where the pendulum's just gone too far.
You are also sort of guilty of this manosphere, Piers. You're very much in the manosphere yourself.
What do you think that means?
Well, you're in the manosphere. Ooh, here comes the finger wagging.
It means that you think James Bond shouldn't cry, and that if he does, that's a weakness.
I want James Bond to be... I want him to...
I will say, if James Bond cried, they probably wouldn't sell as many movie tickets.
Seduce women,
which he
does.
I
want him to be a ruthless, steely-eyed dealer of death to bad guys.
But also, and it's like, you know, he's gonna say, "Oh, well, I don't." He brings up this example of not wanting James Bond to cry, and on the opposite end of that, you got this Snow White fiasco, and they have this kind of strong, masculine Snow White, and it bombed at the box office because, well, believe it or not, most people don't want to watch a Snow White like that. And when it comes to James Bond, like I don't really think I'd want to see a James Bond like that either. I mean, I'd be like, damn, man. The last James Bond I really remember was the Pierce Brosnan James Bonds. I do know there's that new guy and everything, but I think I only watched like one of those and I can't remember it. And if the Pierce Brosnan James Bond was sitting there crying over something that maybe didn't really seem like that big of a deal. I mean, listen, man, there is a time and place for that. Gladiator, one of the most probably manly men movies ever with Russell Crowe. Fantastic movie. And there's a part where he finally escapes from those guys that are trying to execute him after Emperor Commodus says, get rid of him. And then he horses back over to his house and he sees that his wife and child have been burnt to a crisp and they're hanging there. And he starts crying. Now, you know, that it didn't destroy the movie or anything like that, but if he would have sat there and started crying because of like something really like that doesn't seem to justify it at all, it'd be really, really freaking I don't think it would sell that many tickets. I don't think Gladiator would have that legacy if that's, or James Bond would have that legacy, so to speak. Klaus says, all right, I almost cried now from laughing. Yeah. Hasn't the Bond franchise been sold? Probably going to be Jane Bond now. I don't know what I do a really bad job of watching current movies because I've been let down so many times from movies that I mean, I'm just sitting here watching older stuff, frankly, and it's good. You know, like The Magnificent Seven, Seven Samurai. There's another fantastic movie. You know what I mean? Like there's just we got plenty of media I can go back to and watch, and I think it's rare that I find something new now. Most of the time, if I watch something new, it's because someone else wanted me to watch it with them. You know, whether it's like a date or some friends are like, oh, let's go see this. And I'm like, all right, well, I should spend time with some of my buddies and we'll go see this or something like that. But that's even pretty rare too, to be honest.
I want him to have a cigarette with his whiskey or his shaken
like
lobster martini.
Maybe Andrew is your type.
And I don't want him sobbing like a baby all the time. I don't.
Like Tommy might not.
Because guess what? When you're in Her Majesty's Secret Service, you don't have time to cry all the time.
Very sad news about Her Majesty, Piers. Sadly, she did pass away, and I'm sure you cried at that, which is completely
His Majesty
right.
Now, obviously.
Tommy,
actually,
probably,
the last Bond film was under Her Majesty, so I was correct.
Fine. Great fact checking. Tommy would obviously like to go out with a man like you then, because you don't think it's okay for a man to cry.
Well, she has excellent taste.
But there are other women who do like a man that cries. Like, we're not all the same. We don't all require the same type of man. So it's fine if we all want to be different types of men, but there shouldn't be one rule for all men. And that's the problem.
All right, let me bring Sean back in and bring it back.
Now, listen, I don't even necessarily disagree with that. I think we should live in a free society and people should not be compelled to live by one person's definition of these things or another. But, you know, when it comes to the deal between men and women, that's where we really need to look at things and make sure that it's made fair, or at least makes sense.
Back to Adolescence, because this series has blown up worldwide. It's got incredible numbers of people watching, talking about it, debating. A lot of parents thinking, what should they do if they have a young teenage boy? You know, and I saw it, as I say, with my three sons, the Jonathan Haidt book about cell phones, you know, from 2010, when phones became smartphones, basically young people's brains started scrambling, and they've carried on scrambling ever since. That doesn't help. I think a lot of the issues that young men.
You know, I think the kind of world that we live in, especially with social media and cell phones, is like this attention economy kind of deal. And oftentimes what gets attention is acting outside of the norm. So we kind of have a recipe for wanting to, I don't know, destroy social norms or question social norms or do things that are non-traditional because it tends to work in this sort of attention-driven economy. Even very egregious things. So smartphones and seeing people get views and attention by doing things that are outside of the norm has kind of created this snowball effect to maybe make people want to move more in those directions.
Face are driven by stuff they see on their phone.
Seems like, you know, humans are very much incentive driven.
I agree. I mean, you know, for this specific instance, my wife and I were waiting to give our children phones until at least 8th grade, right? At least 8th grade. We want to monitor what they're seeing and what they're being filled with, right? Because again, they're subject to search engines. They hear things at school, then they go home, they search it on their phone, they search it in their room, and now they're wide open to this world that they don't need to be a part of because their brains haven't fully formed yet. They're still little. My son's almost 12, right? I got to be very careful of what he puts in his mind. And social media, for the things that we are doing as adults, yeah, it's pouring into our household and we're doing well with it. But for an adolescent, like these young kids, I'm seeing kids at dinners when we're at restaurant surfing TikTok while their parents are not even paying attention to what they're doing. Like,
I think it can be pretty rough out there. I was reading another one of those essays from that scholarship that I do. And this person was talking about how they're a tutor. Part of their volunteer work was tutoring, and they're talking about how much trouble young people are having with reading, and they're not reading at their grade level, and they're giving examples in their essay, and I'm like, dang, that's really freaking bad. Parents definitely, you know, have an obligation to sit there and do their best to teach their kids, you know, and it's we as a society seem to have be doing pretty bad, at least for large swaths of the population. Classes remove social norms and you get people like Johnny Somali. Oh my God. Yeah, very much so. I mean, and that's all attention economy driven. Like, I'm going to go to Japan and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to start being a jackass out there. The most disgusting thing ever, honestly. Mr. Pitt says, Klaus, I'm almost certain they made Bond a black woman. Okay, so is that what's going on? You know what? That's interesting. Let me just look at that. I haven't seen anything about James Bond in a long time. New James Bond movie actor. Damn, I'm not seeing anything about that. Bond movie. Here, I'll look it up. Like, is it a woman actor? The change to a woman holding the 007 designation in the franchise drew internet. Lashana Lynch. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Huh. I'm not seeing much on it, but it looks like there's a little bit there. Lashana Lynch. She has since had roles in the James Bond film No Time to Die. Oh, man. In 2024, Lynch was revealed to be the voice actress and likeness for the main character. She also played the major role of Bianca Pullman in MI6 agent. Well, she's doing some kind of James Bond stuff. Okay, Lynch played Nomi, the new 007 agent, alongside Daniel Craig as the retired 007. Okay, yeah, so she is James Bond in the James Bond film franchise. Okay, yeah, I mean, there it is. There it is. Johnny Somali is a scourge on American travelers. Very much so. Very much so.
That right there is a massive problem. And if we don't, as a society, get a hold of that, then this will never end. There will be more series like Adolescence that hit even harder because we're witnessing it in our own lives.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, you seem to be in agreement with some of that.
Yeah, it's poison. There's no doubt. It re-scrambles children's brains, and it's very difficult to monitor. Even if you have parental controls, they can find ways around it. At school, they have peers who will assist them in getting around it. You have to monitor it really well. Smartphone technology for my own kids, it was kind of new. I wish that I, in retrospect, had done more guarding against that myself. You don't know the dangers of that technology until children get a hold of it, and then you're left scrambling going, oh man, I wish I had known that this was going on or that was going on, but you have no idea.
I think a lot of us, especially millennials that grew up with being first introduced to social media and smartphones, when it comes to, for those of us who, if we become parents or not, but if we do, I think the way we'll raise our children will be different. Like if I think about that, I will understand I don't want to sit here and have a kid surfing 4chan at age 13. That's not going to happen. not in this house. You know what I mean? Ahmed Motsa said, "What's up, Shah? Hey man, shout out to you, bro. Great to see you. Hope everything's going well with you. I know you've been busy with work and stuff."
Now, though, we have a little bit of retrospect, and we know that it's an appropriate thing to do to guide against this type of technology because, yeah, he's absolutely right. It does create all sorts of problems for kids. I'm not sure that gets to the heart of the masculinity and feminine issue, but I totally agree with him that we should be safeguarding our children against this technology. It does seem to be very bad for them.
And James, there is pretty well unfettered pornography on the...
I'm glad he brought that up, because I was thinking that. I didn't want to say it, but that's the huge problem.
Internet available to young men and women, obviously, but men are watching a lot of often quite violent, degrading sexual scenes in these porn clips they're seeing online. None of that can help in the way an impressionable...
I mean, women are watching that too. I think it's even been proven that women search that kind of stuff up more than men. So, I mean, he needs to remember the role of women in that. It's not just like, oh, they were victimized. And a lot of women seek that out.
Young male mind goes about trying
especially like with romantic novels and 50 Shades of Grey and all that kind of stuff.
Forge a real relationship with an actual woman.
Well, I think it's important not to say young male mind. It's any person's mind, right? Like, I don't think we should victimize men. I can't believe Andrew's agreeing with me. But yeah, it's awful. I mean, I genuinely don't think...
Yo, shout out Kyle Wells. Somebody tell Pierce about women's pornography habits. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we were just mentioning too. So that's the whole thing that he's missing right there. And, we know that. I mean, women go after the bad boys. That's another thing Red Pill figured out.
People should have phones until they're 16. They certainly shouldn't have social
Well, Australia's done that, and I'm not against it.
Yeah.
The smartphone ban till 16.
I mean, it's terrifying.
Why not?
You can't go on air, on TV, and say whatever you want. Like, I know you're pretending that you're uncensored, but you couldn't sit here and say literally whatever you want.
Yes, you can.
Well, not really, Piers, because
Yes,
if you said something that incited hatred or racism or a terror attack,
I wouldn't want to say
you would be arrested.
I wouldn't
but
want
online,
why would I want to incite
I'm
a
not
terror
saying
attack?
that you want to. I'm just trying to make a point. Online,
you're saying I can't say what I want.
Online,
I do not want to incite a terror attack.
No, but if you did,
I think he did mean that as like you can't blanketly say anything you want. Let's just go back. I mean, and they're in the. I think Piers Morgan operates out of the U.S. or is he actually in the U.K.? I can't even remember.
Incited hatred or racism or a terror attack.
I wouldn't want
really, Piers, because if you couldn't sit here and say literally whatever you want, you want. Like, I know you're pretending that
whatever you want. He's saying, well, I don't want to say those things, so it doesn't apply to me. All right, never mind. I get it. Klaus says, haha, he doesn't know the statistics of Pornhub. Women are the ones that watch the violent stuff. Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't know. And honestly, I get it, his age. And even me as a young guy, when I started to know women better, I was surprised. I even growing up in my naiveness, I didn't really think women watched that kind of stuff at all. And then it's like, wait a minute. And it's like, I was surprised to learn that women stimulate themselves, a lot. And like, I don't know, I was, for some reason that surprised me to find that out. And it's like, what multiple women I've realize that's like a thing that they do. And it's weird. I mean, I'm a no-fap guy. So for me, I'm just like, oh, okay. It seems to be something where it's more discussed with as a problem for men. But women do that a lot too, which is like, I don't know, it just surprised me. Kyle Wells says, I'm not going to extol the virtues of the nudie videos, but I'll be more inclined to take criticisms of men's consumption of it seriously when we do the same for women's use consumption of social media. Yeah, and I mean, things like romantic novels and all that kind of stuff. You could say that both of those things together influence or make people's perceptions not realistic. You know what I mean? So they're both suffering it. But, I think women are looking at the nudie videos a lot more than they ever did before as well, too. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's probably a little less than men. But they're on there. Mr. Pitt says, I don't know why corn needs to be characterized as violent or degrading for it to be considered problematic. Corn can ruin a young mind regardless of the game and regardless of the child's gender. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's, it's funny, like, women will, people will talk about how men's expectations around sex gets ruined from watching nudie videos. And I agree, I think it does, but it really is the same for women. You know what I mean? They'll say they see women as objects. That same woman will pull out a self-stimulating, silicone made, whatever the hell they're made out of, vibrator, frankly, with 3 different settings on it, use it on themselves, and then believe that they haven't ruined their own expectations of things. I think from the guy's side, a lot of the problem with watching that, especially if you don't have, I think it's especially bad if you don't have any experience with women, because you're looking at that and there's a difference from being with someone in real life versus just pleasuring yourself to freaking lights on a screen or something like that. And I think it can have this dopamine effect, and some of the bro science that the NoFap guys talk about, I think is true. The sort of reward system and seeing all that kind of stuff constantly. And I mean, sitting somewhere and opening up a bunch of tabs of this stuff. And I think it can get pretty bad. So people who are able to kick a nudie vid habit, I'm like, I got a lot of respect for that, Now, I'm not going to sit here and shame guys for doing that or anything. I get it. I get people use that sometimes, not the end of the world. It's just me personally, I've did my best to remove myself from that, Kyle Wells says, what was 50 Shades of Grey if not a book series aptly summarized by Tie Me Up and F Me You Billionaire? Yeah, exactly. It's got the same level of creating standards that probably don't fit for the average person, and it sold so well and so fast, so it reveals something there.
But you couldn't sit here and say literally whatever you want.
Yes, okay.
Well, not really, Piers, because
yes,
if you said something that incited hatred or racism or a terror attack,
I wouldn't want to.
But I get what he's saying. Like whatever, like you can't say anything.
Would be arrested.
I wouldn't
but online,
why would I want to incite
I'm
a
not
terror
saying
attack?
that you want to. I'm just trying to make a point. Online,
you're saying I can't say what I want.
Online,
I do not want to incite a terror attack.
No, but if you did,
but I'm allowed. Just you're raising an interesting point about censorship.
Yeah,
we're uncensored because I would not want. I don't say anything I don't want to say.
Right.
So when you say I'm censoring, I'm actually self-censoring. I'm not. I'm not going to call for a terror attack.
I'm not saying that you would ever do that, of course, but I'm saying that if you did, there would be accountability for that because you are broadcasting to a lot of people.
Right.
But a lot of people online do not have that gate stopping them from saying horrendous things, and so therefore it can blow up online, excuse the horrible pun, and that shouldn't be allowed. There should be a system in place that stops people broadcasting things that aren't meant to be broadcast to millions of people.
One of the problems, Tommy, Toby Young, who's a British journalist, director of Free Speech Union, very, very big in promoting and defending free speech, says Adolescence, the new teen drama, is pro-censorship propaganda, partly paid for by the state. It is now being seized upon by Labour left-wing MPs as evidence we need more online censorship. And that is, of course, you talk about a swinging pendulum. What you don't want to come out of all this is an overreaction and an over-censorship. because that in itself becomes a problem.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with Sean on this point, too. I think parenting has more to do with this than any of us really, can even understand. I mean, many, I'm sure, in this panel can. But parenting is, to me, the end-all, be-all of all of this. I mean, you can watch horrible things online. You can listen to people say horrible things. But if you've got a good foundation...
I don't know why. I'm just... In 2019, Lauren... Oh, damn. In June 2019, Lauren announced on Instagram that she was engaged to her boyfriend, Brandon Frick. Their engagement was called off in 2020. In early 2021, Lauren was linked to fellow Fox broadcaster and former Major League Baseball catcher, JP Arencibia. Oh, so he used to be a Fox broadcaster. On September 25th, 2021, Lauren confirmed that she was engaged on an episode of Justice with Judge Jeanine. Man, I miss those old Judge shows. I used to watch a lot of Judge Judy back in the day. They were married October 21st, 2022. Lauren owns a Chihuahua mutt named Coda. Sounds like they haven't had kids yet. In April 2020, Lauren moved from Los Angeles to Nashville. Lauren is an avid runner and has a tattoo of a wheat leaf and South Dakota state flower, the pulsatilla, on the back of her neck, as well as a tattoo of a Roman numeral 11 with a semicolon, since 11 is her lucky number. Okay, interesting.
And with good parents at home, hopefully too, that provides you with a lot of guidance and support to navigate these things. And it doesn't really, scramble your mind in the way that those that are not blessed with a two-parent household may be impacted by it. I don't believe that censorship is ever the answer. I believe that more...
I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not a free speech absolutist. I do think there are some things that could probably go too far. Kind of like, he mentioned there. But, I know we live in a society that values free speech. But even in the U.S., I think we have limits on certain things. You can't yell fire in a movie theater or something like that, right? So there are limits. And the question is where are those limits drawn? And if we can't agree to that in society, then we have, I think probably a greater issue there. Mr. Pitt says, I don't know why corn needs to be characterized as violent or degrading for it to be considered problematic. Uh-oh, I think I read that one already. My bad. Okay, I'm caught up with that. Oh, there's another one. Okay, yeah, we're good.
Speech is the answer to speech that you don't like. And as much as I don't like certain people online and what they say, whether they're the Tate brothers or whoever else, I believe that they should have the right and the ability to say it. And then people like us should have the right and ability to respond to it. I think that's the healthiest way to come to a great consensus, or at least a public square where we can all debate ideas with dialogue and conversation. But I don't think that censorship is ever the answer. And I think that, our leaders in America have done a great job of emphasizing that, especially to the European countries who believe censorship is the way to cleanse or the way to legislate morality. I just don't think that's the way to do it.
Well, the instinctive reaction, certainly in the UK, for a long time now, many years, has been to censor and to ban and prohibit and so on. And I think people are beginning to wake up to the downside of that, is that once you give away...
I think she said she doesn't want to legislate morality, and that would be a secular way of seeing
to
things.
Cleanse, or the way to in America is ever the answer. And I think that, our leaders in America have done a great job of emphasizing that, especially to the European countries who believe censorship is the way to cleanse or the way to legislate morality. I just don't think that's the way to do it.
Well, the
legislate morality.
Instinctive reaction, certainly in the UK, for a long time now, many years, has been to censor and to ban and prohibit.
When it comes to free speech, one thing that I think about is like living in a secular society, secular democratic society where people can voice their opinions and largely have free speech on a lot of things. I don't think that's necessarily compatible with a religious society, because for a religious society, a true religious society has to hold some things sacred. And things that are sacred cannot be, profaned, so to speak. But living in the society we do, all religious symbology is in the public domain. So nothing can be sacred since everything can be made profane and criticized, basically. And I mean, that's kind of the deal with secular democracies. Like I mentioned earlier, is a religion gets relegated to private life, basically. So I don't, I watched a video of Andrew Wilson, and he was talking to this guy named Gnostic Informant, and I think Gnostic Informant brought up that, like, so, we don't want to live under somebody else's religion. And he's saying, well, I'm not advocating against secular laws. He's promoting, Christian ethics. And if people all had like the same ethical system, religiously speaking, then people would vote in a way that's congruent with that ethical system. And it's not necessarily an impingement on freedoms and rights for other people. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that or not. I think if the vast majority of people were of one stripe, then they would probably vote to have, they would have enough, mass, so to speak, to vote to change the way our society fundamentally works. But, can that ever realistically happen? Probably not. If we live in a secular democracy, and once it reaches a certain critical mass, people get sick of it, and then they start to push back, and then the other side of the pendulum comes in. So it probably wouldn't get that far, but I could be completely wrong there. Caesar, looks like you're going to type something.
And so on. And I think people are beginning to wake up to the downside of that, is that once you chip away at things like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, you're heading down a pretty slippery road, which can be dictated by your government. And then that's not a place.
It's interesting though, isn't it? I mean, I just want to make a side point, and I don't need to get into it, but like, your government are banning books. So they are literally talking about free speech whilst also banning free speech.
I think he's talking about UK.
That they don't agree with. So what you're saying is nice, and I agree with you in principle, but that's not literally what is happening.
Okay, maybe he's talking about the US.
Same as banning books.
You talked about freedom of speech, right? And everyone coming together and having a discussion about it. But that's not what's happening.
Yeah. Cesar Quintana says, too bad Michael Knowles wasn't on the panel to figure it out for us. Yeah, exactly right. Too bad Michael wasn't here. God, I feel like I saw something about him recently, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but
Putting
we're talking
graphic
about in the
gay
home,
porn
not in
into
school.
children's libraries is a little different.
I mean, no one should be putting porn into a children's library. I think we all agree on that.
What books was he talking about that were getting banned? I wish he would let us know, because it seems like she's talking about one thing. Maybe he's talking about something else. I haven't heard of any books getting banned that I can't read.
And why are you complaining that that's being
Because that's
banned?
not what I'm discussing. I'm discussing books that talk about...
Which books?
Diversity, equality, that talk about Black Lives Matter, that talk about gay pride. Like, this is...
So I don't have the same take as the rest of the panel when it comes to the idea of legislating morality. I think that there are ideas which are subversive and that we can get rid of, and that's absolutely fine to do. I don't think that we need to have unfettered access to pornography. I don't think that we need to have unfettered access to children being introduced to this type of sexuality so young. I don't think that that's necessary at all. I don't think it's an impingement on free speech at all. And not only that, there's going to necessarily be limits on every single freedom that we have. By necessity, that's the way it has to be, unfortunately. And the reason it has to be that way is because otherwise you're going to have nothing but subversives who go in and subvert your entire culture, which is exactly what happened in the UK.
The subversives come in with culture. I was talking about free speech and the idea of having sacred beliefs. If all those sacred, symbols and beliefs are in the public domain, you can't. I really believe nothing can be truly sacred in that society, and that's where culture starts to degrade. So these two forces, I think, are diametrically opposed to one another. For him to keep culture going, he does have to legislate some things as off limits, so to speak. The question is can that be balanced, and what does that look like?
And it's exactly what's been happening in the United States. So we have to have some way to fight back against that.
All right.
Kyle Wells says, Tommy Lauren is the living embodiment of the tradcon side of the gynocentric coin. Very much so. Feminism being the other. In any sane universe, she'd be the head cashier at a Tractor Supply at home in South Dakota. I don't know why that makes me laugh so much. I could just imagine it. But you bring up a good point. I think what a lot of people miss is that they're not looking at this from a gynocentric lens. And if they understood that a little bit better, really the cover of this book has been so useful to me. Let me just go ahead and get Peter Wright and Paul Elam's name in there. But really, if they understood this and what's wrong with it and in the history of that and how it's affected culture and things like that, then they'd be better able to spot this kind of stuff.
Sean, final word to you.
I just feel like, raising children is a multi-pronged approach, right? I mean, you're looking at first in the house, then you're looking at the schools, you're looking at the government, you're looking at extracurricular activities.
And raising children, right? People complain about the state. Like, right, we talk about the state and child support, family law barging into your house and destroying your household and taking your kids away and making custody a hassle and all these kinds of things. And really, when it comes to the problem of raising children is that you don't see it, but Big Brother also lives in your house. The Big Brother state is in your house like never before. And then there's also, Big Sister social media, which is also in your house through smartphones. So you got the state in there, you got social media in there, and then there's the two parents and everything else. And it's very easy for these two other additions to every household nowadays to create contention between the husband and the wife and to sort of find its way into private living and get in the way of how you raise your children. And it makes it really tough because there's just so much information being bombarded. And that is the challenge today. We're not living on farms and in these small village communities where it's different. Kyle Wells says her television career is purely the product of being able to string together vaguely coherent conservative thoughts in vaguely complete sentences while being of Palin-esque attractiveness. Do you guys remember that show Family Guy from back in the day? And they were kind of making fun of politics, and I think Lois, the wife, was running for mayor or something, and she just went up on the stage and she just said trigger words like she was just like 9/11, and everybody would like react to it how she wants them to react, and there were like a few other words, and it was just making fun of like how politics works, and there's just these kind of dog whistle words, and people can kind of come in and listen and then just kind of say and observe what the mob reacts to and string those together, kind of like you're mentioning, and get a following. Yeah, probably looks has something to do with it also.
Activities with coaches, et cetera, and different people that have their
and
hands
by probably definitely
on the child. I just think it's important to be at home having these open conversations, right? What this drama series did for me was already
9 gasp 11. I mean, I don't know if you remember that episode. It's God, this is probably we're going on a long ass time ago, probably 20 years ago now.
Already had this shining light on a subject, but made it even brighter. Like, I need to open the door and talk to my child. I need to talk to my son. I need to talk to my daughter to see what's going on in the world, right? Because if I don't know what's going on, then I can't help them navigate what's going on in society.
But I think, it's interesting. It's been a fascinating.
Kind of seems like when Manosphere guys are like, you don't understand what the dating market is like now. What you're saying can't really help us.
In debate. I just think if you don't know that your child is going down rabbit holes like that kid is in that series for that length of time, then it comes to Tommy's point, is you're failing your parenting. That is a fundamental part of parenting, is you're supposed to be protecting these impressionable young minds as best you can. If they're spending hours after hour every day, watching and viewing incredibly disturbing content that fries their brains and makes them do.
Yeah, like they're on Reddit all day, or they're like the Reddit hive mind gets to them, or the Twitter hive mind, or they're on these unsavory sites like 4chan or something like that. The parents of our generation, they didn't understand what that was. I'd like to think parents now understand that a lot better, so hopefully they will be more effective at spotting things out and being, helping guide their children there. Kyle says, I do. Lois was running for the mayor of Quahog. Yeah. Yeah, man, watching my CRT TV over there, really enjoying that thing. I want to look up like old DVDs of like Family Guy DVDs. I have one, but I think it's so scratched that I need to buy another one. I wanted to see those episodes again. And old episodes of The Simpsons.
Stuff they wouldn't otherwise have done. You are failing as a parent. And one of the biggest issues in the world right now is a general sense of a lack of accountability for parents. They're the first feckless parents to blame everybody else. It's the government's fault.
Hold on real quick. Let me just listen to that again.
A general, the biggest issues in the world right now is a general sense of a lack of accountability for parents. They're the
Well, I mean, and you know, a lot of that is you're dealing with a bunch of broken households. And, you know, obviously there's the single mother stuff going on out there. A lot of people just aren't staying together, dating apps and all these kinds of things. So it's, people haven't really been doing family the same way.
The first feckless parents to blame everybody else. It's the government's fault. It's the police fault. It's the social workers' fault. It's the school teachers' fault.
It's dad's fault, or the dad wasn't there, or the dad this, or he was abusive or controlling, or this and that. I mean, a lot of the problem is that the state has systematically deconstructed and done away with fatherhood as we know it. So that's very tough to do, you know, without receiving a bunch of pushback. And so that's the thing that really needs to be helped out. Klaus says, that reminds me of the discussion of killer games, and everybody is going to go on a killing spree. Yeah, I remember that too. And, you know, I don't think that was really the case, you know, with games. I mean, a lot of people can play games and do that. And people have always come for the gamers over the years for some dang reason. You know what I mean? It's like, come on now.
Et cetera, et cetera. It's never their fault. And actually, if you just start by saying, actually, we should have done more as parents, that is a good message to send everybody.
Well, I mean, you know, the parents have got to be able to stay together here. I mean, dad's got to be able to have custody of the kids at least, you know, a good amount of the time to be able to do this. If that's not the case, then this whole stuff about parents need to do better isn't going to work. If we can't get, it's one thing to raise children, but if parents can't get on the same level with each other, then it gets really tough. Anonymous, hey, shout out to you, man. Great to see you. Anonymous says, men needing to provide for women they compete with in the job market. Exactly. It's either we roll back the clock on this, which I don't think we're going to do, or we're going to have to move into something new.
We could probably all agree on that. Great discussion.
Absolutely.
Great discussion. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, we'll give him the thumbs up. Thank you, Pierce, for this amazing entertainment and for not crashing the stream for me reacting to it. Let's go ahead and look at some comments. 15,000 comments. Okay. Man, when was the last time you cried? All right, let's see what that says. I couldn't make it more than 10 minutes. So cringe. I always get a kick out of when one woman thinks she speaks for all women. I guess Tommy has always been a fraud. Man, you know, when it comes to almost tearing up, not crying, but almost crying. All right. I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying here. All right. I didn't say crying exactly, you know. But, you know, when I watch certain movies, like, whenever there's like a father-son relationship and then the father passes away, that one like almost gets me. I don't want to be in a movie theater when that happens. Or if there's like a really close like brother relationship. Like those are like the two instances in movie. Like everything else in any movie I can see and it's like not that big of a deal. But those two right there are the tough ones. Like in what was that? In Black Panther. See, that's my Black Panther 1/6 action figure right there. Now, a lot of women would come out and see this and be like, this is not manly. You are not a real man. But whatever, we'll deal with that later. But in that movie, there's a moment, you know, where he drinks that purple drink or whatever, that Black Panther serum, or the traditional ritual thing. And then he sees his dad in the spirit world. And it's like, there's a moment like he's excited to see his dad and realizes his dad passed away. And he like goes down, man, that part right there, that can be a tear jerker. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest with you guys. Now, I didn't say that I went all the way here, but I almost did, allegedly. You know what I'm saying? All right. I couldn't make it more than 10 minutes. So cringe. I always get a kick out of when one woman thinks she speaks for all women. I guess Tommy has always been a fraud. Well, that didn't answer the question. When my father was deleted, oh man, it's really sad. 4 years ago. When my grandparents passed away, when my grandparents died, once for each of them, they were like my father and mother. I cried alone, obviously. Yeah. Other than when I get teary from an amazingly emotional movie, the last real sobbing type of cry was probably October of 2022, which was from seeing the orchestra play The Wizard of Oz. And later on in the light, I reminisced about how my late grandfather, who had died July of that year, would have loved seeing that symphony, the symphony with us. Yeah, that'll do it. About 18 years ago, when my kidneys failed and lost my whole life. Man. I cried when I heard everyone rant about how men need to do more, but sidestep any accountability. Responsibilities and duties for women being mentioned while the birth rate and family endurance rate collapses, primarily because women are not held to any standard. Family endurance rate. That's an interesting term right there. Watching this, Tommy has that Whitney Cummings talk yell thing down, except Whitney has talent. 1 second. I'm going to let my cat in real quick. If she's bad, we'll have to let her out. All right, hold on, Mimi. Hold on. All right, Mimi, come in. You know, she's my buddy. Yo, JP, welcome in. Hold on 1 second. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. Okay. Hopefully she doesn't derail. Hey, look, it's Raymond Thoughts and Mine. Shout out. Okay. Let me just read this real quick. Kyle Wells says, all you need to know about Tommy in the link above. Purple drank. I walked in for a great time. Shout out to y'all. Shout out, man. Welcome in, bro. I don't know why. Every time I see your name, JP, I instantly think of Jordan Peterson. I'm like, I don't know why. I mean, JP, but it's just every time. Cesar Quintana says, you ever seen the movie Little Boy? The son crying at his father's grave was really sad. I have not seen that movie. Let me just type that in real quick. Little Boy. When I think of Little Boy, I think it was the atomic bomb. The original one was named that. Oh yeah, well there it is. Okay, here's the film. Is a World War II war drama film directed by Alejandro Gomez Monteverde. The screenplay, let's see the plot. In the seaside town of O'Hare, California, an 8-year-old boy who is small for his age, Pepper Flint Busby, has a very close relationship with James, his loving father, which begins from the very moment he is born when his father cradles him in his arm and notices how small he is. That's interesting. Sounds like a good movie. I get it now, Little Boy. So he's kind of like dealing with some kind of dwarfism thing. Haven't seen that movie, though. I'll have to check that out. Klaus says, I'm a bad person. I didn't even cry when my father died. You know, people mourn in different ways. I'm sure you were sad. You know, it's just people mourn in different ways. I mean, I've seen some of that too. Like I went to my buddy's father's funeral. He's a guy I knew. And, you know, I especially around the funeral, especially with boys, they're sitting there and you become probably the man of the house and you're taking care of all these funeral arrangements and seeing to people who are coming to visit and pay their respects and all these kinds of things. And Murder of Crows. Hey, shout out to you, man. Welcome in. Nice to meet you, man. I think it's my first time seeing you. I feel like I gotta remember that username. Okay, 30 years, and I'm not macho. I just don't think crying is helpful. Women, we want manly men. Men, okay, but we want womanly women. Women, how dare you? Andrew just debated 4 people and had them silenced and rendered to insults. What a masterclass, LOL. All Andrew is saying, y'all want manly men. We want womanly women. One dude debating 4 feminists and he's winning. Not a single one of them identified what women's roles were. Unbelievable, the double standard. As a conservative woman, that blonde woman misses the main ideology of being a conservative woman. Neither she nor the others could name one duty of a woman, but certainly had the duties of a man down. Very much so. Young boys watching Tates is considered misogyny, but young women following we don't need men type of feminism are celebrated. Oh, wow. There you go. Not a single one of them actually attacked Andrew's logic nor answered his question on what duties women have. The best they had was who hurt you. Tommy let all her modern feminism out. The biggest thing about this video is that Andrew did such a good job of highlighting the undercover feminist, which is what people need to get better at spotting. So that was really good. Men have all these duties to women, and a real man should fulfill them and is born to want to fulfill them, but we have no duties to a man. Here's Whatever Podcast. W. Andrew Wilson, what duties do women have? Total silence. Ben Malik 85 says, if men are born to protect and provide, we should agree that women are born to take care of the house and raise the children. This person says, how about we just let people decide for themselves instead of dealing in inane cliches? You know, I kind of see where he's coming from on that. I'll hit him with the like. Man, let me hit some of these chats. Oh, we got some big money coming in here. JP with $10 a little. Thank you for keeping us company on Saturday night. Man, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I've been having a blast too, honestly. This has been fun. Man, I've gotten so addicted to video, like playing on this CRT television, playing actual 240p Super Nintendo. Like I am becoming all up into video games again. It's kind of revived I don't even know why I'm saying that, but my brain just like flashed me playing Super Mario World after I'm done streaming today when you said that. But thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Keeping us company Saturday night. Will Buzanaris, love you, bro. Eid Mubarak. Thank you, brother. Eid Mubarak to you as well. Very exciting. I hope the month of Ramadan went well for you. I did all the fasts. I didn't really lose weight because like I was eating kind of bad stuff I was having too much tea and cookies afterwards while I watched my CRT television. And I was eating a little bit more bread than I usually do, but it was a good month. It was a good month. So thank you again for the $4.99, man. That's very generous of you. I appreciate that. Just to go back up here to Kyle Wells, for a father-son movie moment, it's hard to surpass the end of Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. Oh, I think it's like a baseball movie. Hold on a second. Let me look that up. That sounds really, I think I might have Field of Dreams. Okay, I recognize the cover. I don't know if I've actually watched that though. I got to watch that. That looks good. Kevin Costner. Murder of Crow says, hello again. I'm lurking tonight. Thank you all very much. Man, no worries, man. Appreciate you being here, even with the lurk. And hope you're enjoying it. And again, thanks to everybody who donated, man. That's all real money right there. So I do appreciate that. And it's always very generous and, you know, exciting and makes it hype and everything like that. We got one more. Gosh, yeah, we're at 3 hours. Instead of doing both of the Manosphere highlights videos, I think I'll just do one of the videos. And it's pretty short. It's 8 minutes. Then I'll call it. So, yeah. Murder of Crows. Shah, much love. Ever heard of Gone with John? Yeah, I have. I've watched some of his stream. I'm subscribed to Gone with John. I see some of his streams sometimes. He's an entertaining guy. He reacts to It's Complicated channel's videos sometimes, and I like watching those ones. Those are pretty fun. But yeah, I like him. All right, paternity fraud hypocrisy. Look what happens when a woman is a victim of paternity fraud. And you're probably wondering, how the hell does that happen? Well, IVF is involved. So let's just go. That should give you some idea. Because when I first saw this, I was getting my car washed. I finally got one of my cars fixed. Somebody ran into it while it was parked in front of my house. And I had to work on that this month and get it fixed. And man, she's looking beautiful. And I'm loving driving this thing. But I was getting it washed because it's been sitting around for a while, and I took it to a place, and I was watching this video, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And I was like, man, I got to react to this one. I like Manosphere Highlights daily. Shout out to them. I used to watch them like actually daily. Then I can't really watch the same stuff all the time. But I've been rewatching them again, and I've been enjoying it. So
my first thought was he's absolutely beautiful. My first thought was he's absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. And my second thought was, what happened?
What happens when the truth comes crashing down? When you found out something you thought was one way was actually a lie the whole time? What if that lie changes the course of your life? Today, we're diving into a story that might shock you. What happens when a woman experiences the consequences of paternity fraud? Stay with me, because this isn't just about one person's heartbreak. It's about a much bigger issue that many of us are overlooking. Let's get...
Man, and by the way, like the part that's so crazy about this is this woman is a victim of paternity fraud, and it's like, man, she's on the news, they're interviewing her. It's just like the biggest deal. I second your choice in glasses from experience. Thank you, man. Yeah, these are some blue light blocking sunglasses. I saw this video on Danny Jones with this guy named Jack Cruz, and it was a really interesting conversation. So I bought these after that.
Get into it. Now it's time for us to get into this and do what we gotta do. Because we many.
So this is your birth announcement? Yes.
Like any new mom, Christina Murray documented every exciting moment of her pregnancy. She'd always dreamed of motherhood.
What made you decide to go with IVF?
Okay, and guys, remember, we've shown Reddit threads on here before. Remember, I even made a video on single mothers by choice. And that's a whole nother phenomenon. A lot of these women are just getting donors and going that route. So this woman was a single mother by choice.
I was a single woman, and you decide to go with IVF. I was a single woman, and I spent years trying to find the perfect person. And the older I got, the more I realized I was more interested in being a mother before I got any older than I was in pursuing a person.
Okay, yeah, so she was dating around. She couldn't find the person. Red pillars kind of have a discussion about that sometimes. But yeah, so she's just like, I got to do something about this fertility. And so she went that way.
Just real quick, I wonder what the expectations for this perfect person are, because
I think just her saying perfect is already, that already kind of lets us know.
People are not
very high.
Not perfect. And second, just like marriage, some women don't want to be wives, but they want the wedding. Same goes for single motherhood. A lot of women are single mothers by choice. Janice, read.
Childbearing by unmarried women has increased to historic levels, according to the most recent data from the Center for Disease Control National Vital Statistics Report. Nearly 4 in 10 babies born in the United States were born to single mothers. Of 4.3 million total births nationally, 1.7 million were to single mothers. Rosanna Hertz, author of Single by Chance, Mothers by Choice, How Women Are Choosing Parenthood Without Marriage and Creating the New American Family, estimate.
The New American Family. Single mothers by choice.
It's that approximately 2.7 million American women are single mothers by choice.
Fellas, protect your seed.
2.7 million women. Wow, that's a lot of people.
American women are single mothers by choice.
Wow. $20 from Ahmed Motaseb. Happy holidays, Shah. Have a good night, everyone. Man, thank you so much, bro. Very generous. That's all real hard-earned money right there from working tough jobs. And I do appreciate that. Man, same to you as well, bro. And I hope you have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for coming in. And thank you so much for the donation and generosity.
Fellas, protect your seed. Be aware of what's happening out there. Don't just not all over the place. Child support is real.
Oh, man. Yeah, tell me about it.
To afford IVF, she worked 2.5 jobs and says she nearly depleted her life savings.
Damn. To afford IVF, she worked, did she say 2.5 jobs?
Just not all over the place. Child support is real.
To afford IVF, she worked 2.5 jobs and says she nearly depleted her life savings.
What was it like to discover you were pregnant?
Wow. Man, it sounds like she had to do IVF like more than one time. Like she had to do like several rounds to like make this happen. So it was probably a very real act of desperation. I mean, depleting your life savings. I think like one of them is like 40 to 50 grand. Hell, that could be a lot of our life savings right there.
It was the dream, right? Until you actually like see the little flutter on the monitor and hear it. I think that's when you finally realize, oh no, this is real. Like I am actually pregnant.
She said she'd chosen a sperm donor with features similar to hers: dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin.
Okay, yeah, so she chose a sperm donor that was a blue-eyed, dirty blonde guy. Man.
But in the delivery room, that feeling of euphoria shattered moments after the baby boy was born.
My first thought was he's absolutely beautiful. He's gorgeous. And my second thought was, what happened?
Okay, so the baby comes out and the baby doesn't look like what she expected. The baby probably didn't have blue eyes and dirty blonde hair.
You knew. I knew immediately. He is African American.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Oh yeah. And so this is the thing. So the IVF clinic switched up the fertilized embryo or whatever, and put it in her womb pretty much. And this was meant for, probably a black woman or, whatever. And she ended up bearing, and it might even mean that the embryo that was meant for her got switched up with another woman somewhere else, which is just like crazy to think about. But yeah.
And it was very evident from the second they held him up that something didn't go to plan. So my first thought was it the embryo or was it the sperm?
It's not that you were upset that he was African American.
No, never once. Not once.
What was upsetting to you?
That he might not be mine, and that
might not.
I might not get to keep him.
I mean, how many guys has that happened to? This might not be mine. Wait, and hold on. And okay, might not be able to keep him. Okay, let's see what she means about that. JP says that nut 3 times all over the place is a sound clip itself. I know, right? That's a good point. Laughs in BBC. Shout out to Mr. Pitt.
Uh-oh. Did you hear that? She was.
Another thing too about IVF is so what I've read, because I actually follow the Single Mother by Choice subreddit, because I'm just like, I gotta read about this stuff. I was like, my mind was blown. I didn't know women were doing that by choice. You know what I mean? But apparently, and she said she like depleted her life savings. I'm guessing she probably had to do multiple rounds, but a lot of times these women will want to have a daughter. But the thing is that a daughter is actually harder to I guess, get impregnated with through IVF. And the son embryos or whatever are a lot more resilient, apparently. So she ended up with the son. Murder of crows. And then, like when you apply like the lot, like, listen, if you're a guy and you end up in this situation and like the child isn't yours, not a lot of people, I mean, at least it seems that way. Probably other guys would sympathize, but if you don't, like, if it's not obvious like it is to her and you don't realize this until later, you're pretty much on the hook. But she's in a very different position because there's no other parent here. She could probably sue the fertility clinic, maybe. Murder of Crow says, Shah, I'm plastered right now. Just want to say I have a totally interesting story about a strong, powerful single mom pro I could share, though please not tonight. Lurking for real now. Peace, y'all. Yeah, no worries, man. Next time. All good. Don't even trip, man. Don't even trip.
Upset that the kid was not hers. Not that he was black, but that he was not hers. This is pure gold. This woman expected her child to be genetically hers. But when the DNA didn't match, she instantly wanted answers. That's exactly what men go through when they realize the kid they've been raising isn't theirs.
So wild.
She even asked, was it the embryo or was it the sperm? Which is the same question men ask when they suspect something isn't right.
Is it the embryo? I think it's both the embryo and the sperm. I mean, because that doesn't even look like a mixed child. So they probably full on switched it up with someone else's IVF deal and put it in her batch or whatever. And it's probably not the embryo or I mean, both of them, it seems like a complete mismatch.
The only difference, when a man questions paternity, he's shamed for not trusting his woman. Let's continue.
Christina's story.
You know, and what's crazy about it too is it's like she probably, when they do IVF, the embryos need to fertilize and take, and they probably used her own eggs or whatever, and it probably was not taking. Then maybe a mix-up happened. They're like, look, the embryo took. Oh my God, it fertilized. This is great. We can impregnate you with it. But really, the whole time it was somebody else's embryo, you know, not hers.
Though shocking, is not the first time an incident like this has happened.
There is no doubt in my mind that this happens far more than we know about.
Well,
if you have solid protocols and proper training, mistakes should be very rare.
Man, somebody was working in that IVF clinic and they didn't eat breakfast that day, and they just they got a text message. I mean, they were going through a breakup. They were really heartbroken, and they just lost sight of what they were supposed to do.
In vitro fertilization, or IVF, a game.
The stock market went down. They lost all their Bitcoin somehow. Something happened, and then they were not paying attention.
Changer for so many families.
Now, while this woman is questioning the clinic, think about something that many men face in their everyday lives: paternity fraud. And it happens more often than you think. We're talking about 30% of babies not being from the biological father. And that's just the percentage that got caught for reasons like blood donation or paternity tests done by the father. If paternity tests were mandatory, this percentage either goes drastically up or it drastically decreases, because women know exactly what happens when it comes to whose baby it is.
I mean, you know, I'm not even necessarily against that. Like, it's a pretty fast cheek swab there, right, in the hospital that they could do. They could facilitate. You know, they do all these other lab tests like it's nothing. Kyle Wells says now she can file a false grape allegation against the turkey baster. Well, yeah, she'll probably sue the company. I can't remember how this ends, but I mean, I think her lawyer already spoke, so they're working on it.
Christina, like the Cardinales, also got a DNA test that changed everything.
It literally said there's 0% chance.
Yeah, of course there's 0% chance, because it wasn't even your embryo. Like, it was a complete mix-up.
Of maternity.
After alerting the clinic she used, Coastal Fertility Specialists, she would also...
Damn, I got to look up the reviews to this place. Coastal Fertility Specialist. Let me see this real quick. Coastal Fertility Specialist. All right, let's see. Ah, damn it. Well, here's the website. Oh, it looks like it's in California? Coastal Fertility Clinic in California. There might be more than one of these. Check it out. Schedule an appointment. We know you have options. Why choose us? Creating families worldwide since 1982. Wow. Look at these professionals right here, ready to get this figured out. Customized IVF treatment, donor egg surrogacy, fertility preservation, LGBTQ plus friendly clinic, multilingual support, genetic screening. One-stop fertility center. All right, well, that's interesting. I was hoping to see like reviews or something, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to get that, which is okay. Anonymous says Andrew honored the birth of his wife's kids by another man. So I have heard. There is prior children there.
Ultimately learned the baby's biological parents were living in another state, and they wanted full custody of their son. After raising him for the first...
Oh, hold on a second.
Specialist.
Maternity.
After alerting the clinic she used, coastal fertility specialists, she would ultimately learn the baby's biological parents were living in another state, and they wanted full custody of their son.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, it sounds like a changeover.
After raising him for the first 5 months of his life, she gave up the only son she'd ever known.
Okay, so she managed to get the child adopted. And she got lucky there that they were able to figure out who the parents were. And you know what I mean? Like, from the guy's point of view, there's really no such thing as being able to do that. Like, if the woman's going to want to keep the child, if you're legally on the hook after you figure that out after a couple of years, there's no, oh, I want to opt out, or it's not my child, or, well, can we just put the kid up for adoption? No, they're going to be like, sorry, the court says you're the father. And that's that. Now, if you can get to this before the kid's 2, at least in California, 5 in some states, you should really look up your local jurisdiction. You could have some chance. But if there's no other parents in the picture, or they don't know who it is, the judge might still say it's in the best interest of the child for you to raise that kid. So, yeah, I mean, she got lucky.
I was his whole world. And you walk in the courtroom, a mom, and your whole life in your arms, and you walk out with, quite literally, I can distinctly remember walking out with an empty stroller, pushing an empty stroller back to my car.
Now, when you read the comment section, you'll see a lot of women empathizing with her. Because yes, this is horrible, right? But now I want you to switch places with a man. Imagine realizing you've been raising a child that isn't yours, and you've been lied to by the mother.
I'm glad that kid, they found out who the kid's actual parents were and got the kid back. I mean, it's good for the kid. Uh-oh.
All this time, you go to court, DNA proof in hand, only to have the judge tell you that you still have to pay child support.
Yup, I saw that all the time back when I was working at child support.
How would you feel? Can you empathize with him the same way you do with her? Look what she does next.
Christina has now filed a lawsuit against coastal fertility specialists.
I wanted people to realize that this isn't just that might happen or that could happen. This is something that does happen.
Coastal fertility specialists telling Impact their practice deeply regrets the distress caused by an extremely rare human error and extend our sincerest apologies.
They want you to extend some money now, though.
Adding, this incident does not
Yo, where's the refund? And the pain and suffering.
Reflect the high standards we have upheld for 15 years, and no other patients were affected. They also told us that same day we added additional human witnessing in our lab. We have since implemented a state-of-the-art digital witnessing system which electronically verifies patient samples in real time using advanced scanning technology. We reached out to the lawyer for the clinic, and they responded that it's not their practice to comment on active litigation.
Okay, active litigation. Yeah, they're going for the money.
Aha! She filed a lawsuit. She didn't just question it, she sued the clinic. She wants people to know what's going on. She demanded justice. Yet, when men push for mandatory paternity testing at birth, they are told they're insecure or don't trust their girlfriends and wives. So here's the real question. If women are outraged when paternity fraud happens to them, why should men be expected to just accept it when it happens to them? Isn't that
because men are born to innately protect and provide, and they want to do that, or you're not a real man?
A double standard we need to address?
Coastal Fertility told Impact that all of Christina's embryos are accounted for. And now she's actually restarted the IVF process, this time with a different clinic.
I've decided the situation has taken a lot for me, and it doesn't get to take that. It doesn't get to take my desire and my ability to be a mother.
Man, what a story.
Manosphere, we working.
All right, let's check out some of the comments. Another great video from Manosphere Highlights Daily. Shame on her for purposefully bringing a kid into this world without a father. Well, yeah, 2.7 million people going strong. Single motherhood is a national tragedy. They will throw a man in jail for not paying child support, but do absolutely nothing to a woman for paternity fraud. Yep. Paternity tests for every single baby should be mandatory by law in every single place in the world. All this because a good enough guy isn't good enough. Oh, man. Again and again, always double standards in this gynocentric society. Tired. She is one of few that has a taste of what millions of men go through daily. She was like, wait a minute. Well, but she got to extricate herself from the situation. I'll still give him the upvote. She was like, wait a minute, this ain't what I ordered. Pay attention, parents. This is what happens when your little girl follows the wrong people. It's about time they got a taste of their own medicine. Paternity tests should be mandatory. Guarantee you she wanted a 6 foot, 6-figure salary, 6 abs, blonde, blue eyes, liberal professor with a yacht in his own mansion. Oh, man. Imagine how many IVF procedures gets the race right, but the wrong person. Oh, man. She is, what was that movie, The Changeling or something like that? She is even lucky that she did not find out after he turned 18 years old. Yeah, exactly. 325, her hypocrisy. Of course she is angry, but her devotion to BLM stopped her of complaining. Okay, she wanted that baby to be from Chad or Thad, not Tyrone. Reverse paternity that they paid for, hilarious. You know damn well she was upset it was a black baby. She specifically was going for a white baby. I call BS. She was totally upset that the baby was African-American. Honesty and accountability are kryptonite for women. Man. Yeah. It's just such a crazy thing. I thought I'd share it. Yo, there's one more thing I want to share. I don't think we have time for it, but I want to share this with you guys. Have you guys ever heard of auditors? So it's a guy that walks into state buildings and basically he films in public accessible state buildings. And then when people come to him, they're like, you can't film here. He's like, what are you talking about? You serve me, the public. There's this guy, his name's Bay Area Transparency. And this guy recently came to Sacramento and he went to the Sacramento Child Support Office and he did an audit over there. And it's the most hilarious thing I ever seen, especially since I worked at this office for 5 years. Like, this was crazy to see. Let me just show you how hilarious this is. Let's see, videos. You can't film in secure areas. Man, let me tell you, I was in and out of this place for 5 years of my life.
Asking me questions? I'm just trying.
He's an executive there. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
You're asking me a bunch of questions, so I figured I'd come talk to you, but I've already said I don't need help. I don't need anything. Well, I can film behind the doors, too.
I know this guy, too. He's a good guy. You know, he's a good guy. But basically, this person came in with the camera, and he kind of exposed them for violating what is the rights of a U.S. citizen or, you know, an American taxpayer, part of the public, which is that you can walk into these public buildings, at least in California, and film, because it belongs to the, you know, to the public.
I'll do it again.
I know you've done it. I've already advised you that that's not okay.
I know, but you're wrong.
Dude, I used to have a badge that scanned into that exact door right there.
That's what I'm trying to get you to
I appreciate that you feel that way.
It's not that I feel that way. It's the law.
Sir, review it again.
Oh, my God, man. Like, right through here to the left, that's into the wing that was called Establishment. Oh, wait, no. I think that's a different side.
I'm busy, but...
No,
that's a different side.
You can record anything out here, but you can't record a secure area.
True.
I'm going to ask you to take it down.
What you don't do is touch my stuff.
Sure, but I'm going to tell you to take it down.
No.
Or I will have the sheriff intervene.
What's going on, Bay fam? It's your boy, Bay Area
Oh, God.
Transparency, baby. We are back at it once again, and for this video...
Dude, yeah, right down here is like the dog park, and like this is the back of the building. This is the family court office right here. This right here, this building has a sign that says the home of the original one-day divorce program. Because remember, no-fault divorce started in Sacramento. And this is where the family law offices are. The commissioner's office is like right here. He has like a really nice office. I think it even has a shower in there and they can see a bunch of stuff. This is the child support building. So I'd walk out of the back of this on break and I'd walk all the way down here into the dog park just to get like a walk going on.
So we're in the city of Sacramento, California. We went ahead and went to the Child Protective Services office, but Child Protective Services happened to be upstairs. So I went into the child support office and you're gonna see what happened. You just saw a couple little snippets of it. It gets a little bit wild, but what I will say is the next series of videos that are coming are crazy.
Man, this is wild. Murder of Crow says the story reminds me of that Danish dude who who got all threatened with lawsuits because he was their Starbucks juice supplier. That's interesting. I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look at that.
In the next video, we are going to see a complete idiot that works for us, the public, decides to threaten me on camera, decides to...
Yeah, this is the dog park right here. Man, it's going to be kind of funny.
For us, the public.
But there's a bunch of blackberry bushes right here and all around this area. And I don't care. I'd used to eat out of those blackberry bushes on my break.
Decides to threaten me on camera, decides to call the police on me, lies about the building being private or public.
There's also a fennel plant down there. Like, you can actually eat the leaves of that thing.
It's wild.
I don't know. I mean, you know what? Don't take that literally. I mean, I was eating the leaves of that and I was fine.
One more thing I want to throw out there. Listen, when I do these videos, they come out in chronological order. Meaning, when I'm out recording that video in this specific office or building, I don't change the time frame around. The only thing I cut out is when I'm narrating to the mic by myself and I'm not interacting with public servants. Other than that, everything is in the video. And I say this because from what I hear, the Highway Patrol is trying to say that when I was cuffed, it didn't happen that way. That video was heavily edited and the officers didn't.
There's the courthouse right there. That's where your domestic violence orders are coming out of. That's where your child support orders are coming out of. Alimony is getting decided in here. Retirements are getting torn apart. Houses are getting forced to be put on the market. Custody orders are getting decided on, all in this building right here.
Do that. It didn't happen that way. That's not...
And then beyond that, right after this building is the CPS building, Child Protective Services, and then beyond that is like a tax building.
True. The video came out in chronological order. As a matter of fact, that portion of the video wasn't even edited at all. Nothing was cut out of it. So... don't be fooled. This is the narrative they're trying to push lately. They're trying to push that these videos are heavily edited and they don't happen this way. This is exactly how they happen. Like I said, the only thing I cut out is fluff that's in the middle where I am not speaking to a public servant. That's all I cut out. Comes out in chronological order. And another narrative is that we're just out to cause trouble so that somebody will put their hands on us and we can sue people. That's not true at all. Anyways, let's get to it. Follow us on Facebook, Bay Area Transparency Official. Follow us on Instagram at Bay Area Transparency. Subscribe, like, share. BAT, baby, let's do it.
Oh, okay. So this is...
Yeah, this parking space right here is reserved for like the director of the building. Like there's a director and two assistant directors, so they all got that.
That's good. All right, how about you, man?
Just curious what you're taking pictures of the signs.
Oh, just
man, we got child support professionals.
My own purposes. I don't like to share too much.
He's the top dog in the building.
Kind of doing my thing. Cool. Let's get this here.
Man, you know what's hella crazy? So they have all these parkings around the building, which are really convenient. Then they have this overflow parking. And for like 5 years while I was there, I didn't have to park in the overflow. And then towards the end of me staying there, I got the email. And it's like, you got to park in the overflow. And the overflow sucks because there's this stupid little, whatever the hell you call it, gate thing that goes up and down. And when you're trying to leave after work, if you're in this area right here, you can just get on the road and get the hell out. If you're in the overflow parking, you got to sit there and wait for a line of cars to get out. I swear it's a waste of like 10 minutes. So I started getting that email, and what I did is I just kept forgetting to respond to the email. And then every so often they'd send me the email to try to get me on that. And like I was so close to quitting that I just kept doing that. So I never had to park in that stupid parking lot.
I'm sorry, man. I don't hear you. What?
Do you work for the property manager?
No. Okay. Nope. Don't work for the property management, the city, nobody.
Just a hobby?
No, like I said, I don't want to talk about it. I don't give too much information. I work for myself, though. I am working, but...
You seem highly suspicious, so I'm asking questions.
Okay. Gotcha.
Don's a good guy, man. And he does say his name, just so you know. He zooms close up into his right here, his badge. So YouTube, I'm not the one putting that out there.
Recording your name tag right there.
And he can't do it because it's public.
Saying you were doing anything. I just said I didn't.
See, this is inside the office right here. Right behind that door is where all the interview booths are. The genetic tests happen behind that door.
Can I help you out?
No, I'm good. I'm good, bro. All good. Don't need a car. Don't need nothing.
Perfect. Are you here for...
I used to pop out of that door right here and, call out somebody's name or number or whatever and then help them out with their child support case. A lot of new cases walking through here and you open them up or whatever. A lot of people who've just been served and they're trying to figure out what to do walking through that door.
For business or...
I'm here, yeah, conducting business. Yep.
Perfect. What can I do to help you out?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nope.
Okay. Are you a customer?
Why? Now you're asking too many questions.
This guy's a good guy too, man. I know him. I know him well. He's a good guy.
Help you out.
Don't need help. I've answered. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't need help.
We just have.
They're just not used to seeing this, But like, according to the law, people can come in and do this.
People are uncomfortable, and I just wanted to find out what I could do to help.
Nothing.
Nothing I can do to help.
Nope. I'm good. Yep. I'm good. Thank
I'll
you.
be here. Just let me know if there's something I can do to help you out.
Do your thing. I don't need help.
There's your... Oh, crap. I was going to show you the self-payment kiosks.
Pretty sure following or me around ain't helping me out. Or helping anybody else.
Okay.
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 So why don't you just go do your job?
Do you know what my job is?
Not following me around, I'm pretty sure of that.
I'm just curious. You're filming back in behind our areas with when there's nobody at them. We have computers back there with information that's sensitive. So
now he's right. I mean, on those computers is the CSE program, and there can be IRS sensitive data on there. Now, that being said, this is a public area for members of the public to walk in, and he can record. So the onus is on the agency to put protective things on these windows so people cannot, record through that.
Right. So your job wouldn't be with me because I'm filming. But I'm making sure, and I'm being nice about it. I'm making sure I'm doing it in areas where people are gone. Right. I could come right up when somebody's right there working.
No, that's fine.
So
I don't think I'm being rude to you about anything.
Man, check out those cubicles back there. That's your office life.
I didn't say you're being rude. Okay. I said there's no need for you to follow me around.
There's a oh crap. I missed some of these. Wealth warp apparatus. Watch Tommy and see what she grins widely about. Tommy did do some great thirst trap pics wielding guns. Oh, I'm not too familiar with her. I have heard of her name over the years. Kyle Wells says there's a self-checkout at child support. Send the asteroid. Yeah, man, I remember when they installed those. It used to not be there. There used to be a human manning the cashier's desk. And every now and then someone would come in with like a bunch of pennies because they just were so pissed off at child support. They'd come in the kind of petty fashion, be like, well, I want to pay my child support in pennies. And then, that would cause a thing. Eventually, they put in these self-service kiosks, and then they got rid of the cashier's desk. So if you're going to come manually make a payment, you have to use this kiosk.
Right. That's what I said. Ain't no need for you to follow me around and get close to me. This is how close we are. A couple feet. Not very much. I mean, there's no reason to do that, right?
That's definitely violating some COVID standards.
That's my thing.
I keep tabs on my lobby, so
I just work. That's all I do. Oh, we got these people coming. Let me get out their way.
Come on down. We're gonna be in that first booth there on the left.
Oh, keeping.
Yeah, so these are the receptionists right here, and they help people out with their forms and things like that, get them in the system.
Tabs on your lap.
Or just check out their case, and they see like, oh, you got a case going. Let me alert a caseworker to come out.
Follow me around close, a couple feet. I'm wondering if he's still following me really close. Yeah, he is.
Oh man.
Got those ones. Over there. We got a long hallway here that we've seen.
Yeah, so right there's the interview booths.
Offices.
Each of those interview booths has like a secret button. So if the customer starts getting, enraged or whatever, you can push the button and then the officers will come.
It's right there.
Sir, that's a secured area. You can't film in there.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of the onus is. I mean, let's see.
I'm busy, bud.
He mentions the fire code. Tommy gained internet infamy a little while ago with her "men are trash" rant. Wow. So that's how she got big, huh? I posted the link earlier. It's basically all you need to know. Man, I didn't see the link come in. I think YouTube chat probably took it out, or I just missed it. Sorry about that. It's basically all you need to know about her opinions as they pertain to these matters. Got it. Yeah, that's some standard undercover feminist stuff.
Advise this gentleman that he can't film in the secured area. He's continued to do it.
Okay, he's telling the sheriff's desk is right there, by the way.
Secured area. He's incorrect. I can't be in a secured area. But I can film in it. And I'm going to film in this one too. So.
Payment kiosk. There's the payment kiosk. See, that used to be the cashier's desk. Then they got rid of that.
Dude just doesn't know what he's talking about. Really what it is he's looking for an opportunity, right? He's looking for an opportunity to say something.
Yeah, there's your kiosks.
And he thought that was his opportunity, right? That was his big opportunity. Oh, he has a problem with the door. The windows aren't secured, right? Those are secured areas too.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I'll put the link in there if you guys want to watch that. That to me, this video to me holds a special certain something because I spent so much time in that building. You had that cop so nervous he was rearranging furniture. Real quick. Murdered Crow says, with everything that's been going on, oh shoot, over forever, I'm so happy Tommy told all over herself and her sister and pure gold. Yeah, that video we watched was. So many government employees standing around doing nothing, complaining about being filmed, yet they don't leave you alone and get filmed the entire time. Make it make sense. A lot of men standing around not doing anything, collecting a government check. I had CPS call 911 because I was filming. They actually demanded the tactical team. Only 6 cops showed up. That's a lot of cops. Even better was the cop who called me up laughing to ask if I told the director of CPS I put it on YouTube. Of course I did. Cop said that I had done absolutely nothing wrong and asked why I didn't use his name. It's in my file that I'm listed as extremely dangerous because I record. They were here because my kids have pet turkeys and chickens. CPS says children shouldn't be allowed anywhere near livestock. We live in a farming community. Man. Consider carrying a can of fart spray in your pocket when they are getting too close. Over the past 4 or 5 years, I've watched many different First Amendment audit videos from numerous channels. You, sir, are my absolute favorite. Ego gets in the way of common sense every single time. Man, that's fun. That was fun. I say we kind of see this out. We'll do that with some smooth jazz. Man, I had a freaking good time tonight. I appreciate everyone that was in here and participated and liked the video, and I hope you guys all enjoyed us reacting to Piers Morgan there and taking a little tour of my old child support office. And I want to thank everybody for the donations that came in today. It's very generous. I appreciate that. I'll try to spend that on something responsible. You know, hopefully it won't all go to cigars and retro video games or old DVDs or dates with women or something like that. I'll try to spend that on something more, you know, I guess better. Maybe it'll go into some more dowry literature or books, things like that. So appreciate that. It was a good month. I'm very grateful. Got my car fixed. Got a religious holiday tomorrow, so I'll be spending time with some family. Very happy about that. Got some things coming up. So got a discussion with Baskerville, Tom Golden, and Don on Monday. Paul and I should be getting something going again. Yo, Kyle Wells, it says your message was retracted. I hope everything's okay. Sometimes YouTube does some things. Eggs, I say eggs. I love eggs. W Stream, thank you, Mr. Pitt. Big shout out to you, Mr. Pitt. I appreciate all the help you give me, man, and the support. Enjoy, Tommy. Spend it on yerba mate. Man, that's very tempting. That's very tempting. The best yerba mate is the Enlightened Mint, but the ones that come in a glass bottle. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will. Such a smooth song. I got some tacos waiting for me. I'm gonna eat some of those, and I'll probably come right back in here and play with my I don't got my Skycam set up, but play with my retro video games. I gotta get a few of those games in, so that'll be pretty fun. I also got to eat this cucumber I forgot to eat, but I didn't want to eat it on stream. I love cucumbers. Cucumbers are so refreshing. I've been fasting every day from 5:30 in the morning to about 7:20 at night, or thereabouts. And it's just going to be weird because tomorrow I'm going to wake up and be able to eat breakfast, you know, at a normal time. The weather over here has been fantastic. Enjoy Tommy's plastic surgery vids. I'll have to find those. Man, this song is so nice. I've been reading a new dowry book, and it specifically focuses on the marriage transactions and marriage gifts of the ancient Palestinians. So it's going through like Hebrew Israelites and that whole community. So it's focused on biblical stuff, which I think is very important. It's like 300 and something pages, but I'm glad that that book exists because I just think it's like, it's just stuff I want to be able to know about, you know? Anyways, I'll stop torturing you guys with eating this cucumber. But once again, salute to the legends out there. Have a nice evening, y'all. Thank you, Klaus. Man, I always appreciate you coming in here. I know it's not the best timing for you. Guys, if you can please check out the video game video that my buddy Nasuji made. That would be freaking awesome. I really want to get some views on this video, and you know, we're going to be making some more gaming content. I do try to keep that separate from this channel. But man, I'm trying to get back into gaming a bit, and it's nice to be able to think about other stuff. Heck yeah, 80 views. I want to see this guy hit over 1,000 subscribers. I want his channel to get monetized. He does such a good job editing. These are my homies from Canada. And that's me wearing some very studious looking glasses right there. But anyways, yeah. I heard Yada the Snakening is making a cucumber smoothie. Yeah, and charging $120 for it. Shah, F all that starvation stuff. Go near all carnivore instead. Carnivore diet works. I will say that. Carnivore, if you want a six-pack, go carnivore. Night, everybody. All right, well, I'll let everybody go. I'll try to get some videos out this week or something. But once again, fantastic. I had a fun time streaming tonight. It was a good time. So, guys, take it easy. And I will see you guys on